you know what, maybe for the 368,000 children who are in the U.S. foster care system any single day, well, maybe that's part of God's plan to give them a loving and welcoming home and a second chance to grow up as an innocent child in a welcoming and accepting home with a roof over their heads and security and someone who supports them every single day. And I really don't think it's the worst thing in the world for that same child to wake up every day and see an example every single day right in front of you that you can be and you should be loved for who you are. And there's living proof right in front of you. So I think that is a powerful message, and we need to recognize that this isn't new. You know, it might be in the headlines a lot, but again, we've all been here together the whole time. And this ties into another point that I'm going to dive into as well, which is that if two members of a select board make a motion during a meeting, it gets seconded and it receives a majority vote of support, that if they want an action item on the next meeting agenda, it goes on the agenda. So it's a valid procedural motion and it's going to hold up. So I just want to put out there as a heads up that I will be making that motion tonight so that we can put it as the second action item on our agenda for June 30th, which is our next scheduled meeting at this exact moment in time. Another point that I wanted to make is that if the majority of your board wants something on the posted agenda, then it should go on the posted agenda, whether you agree with it or not, and you can just vote against it like you have before. It's not a problem. But it kind of ties into some larger issues that we've been having where there's just a lot of administrative dysfunction and issues that we're having. So the only difference between the chair and the rest of the board is it's pretty slim. You're one of 3 voting members. You have as much right to speak as anyone else. Your vote carries just as much weight. You're really just taking on a more administrative role, right? You run the agenda, we put the agenda together, you draft it, you work with your board and your professional staff to figure out what's going to go on the agenda that week, and you run the meeting, and you're supposed to try to keep the meeting on the rails. And then the third thing is there's a few more documents you sign that only require your signature instead of all 3, and that's pretty much it. You're really kind of a communication captain and administrative leader for your board. So we have this issue with the agenda this week where it was on the draft agenda Tuesday and all day Wednesday and then pulled at the last minute. And again, so now we're just delaying the inevitable, which is we're going to take a vote tonight and we'll see how that goes to put it on the next agenda. But we're having twice as many meetings. They're far less productive. We've had 2 meetings in a row that have gone absolutely off the rails. We're fighting with other boards and departments in town. We're not working cohesively together as a team, and we're just not getting business done as efficiently as we should be, and there just seems to be a disconnect between where the authority begins and where it ends. So, I mean, at this point, this was kind of the last straw for me, what happened with the agenda at the 11th hour this week. So the second intent I want to declare tonight that during tonight's meeting is I will be making a motion as well that our first action item on our next meeting also be a discussion and vote to reorganize the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Chief Phil Tavares.
Thank you very much. I'm just up here today because I saw on the agenda a proposal to maybe put the town attorney's job out to bid. And I wanted to express my strong support for Attorney Robert Galvin in his position as town counsel. As chief, I have worked closely with Attorney Galvin since his appointment in 2012, and I can attest to his exceptional character, dedication, and professional expertise. His legal expertise is remarkable. With 33 years of experience in municipal law, he has successfully argued numerous significant cases, including the landmark Wrexham Beach case, where he secured the town's rights against formidable opposition. His work has gained national recognition, including coverage in the Wall Street Journal, and he secured a $63 million judgment in the South Weymouth development case. His commitment to accessibility is unparalleled. He consistently makes himself available before 6 a.m. on weekends and holidays at all times to ensure the town business proceeds effectively. The town that I oversee is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and having the ability to contact him at any time is crucial. His dedication to fiscal responsibility is evidenced in his practice of providing hometown discount rates, prioritizing service to Marshfield over personal gain. Beyond his professional duties, Attorney Galvin has served our community through trustee of the Edward Phillips Foundation, leadership roles at the Marshfield Country Club, youth sports coaching and administration, support of local charity organizations, active participation in community affairs. Attorney Galvin's combination of legal expertise, community dedication, and unwavering integrity make him an invaluable asset to the town of Marshfield. His ethical standards and commitment to provide honest legal counsel exemplifies the qualities we need in our town council to move forward. Too much change at once is not a good business practice due to loss of institutional knowledge and experience. Invaluable knowledge of the town's history, operations, challenges, and relationships will lead to a loss of this crucial institutional memory, potentially hindering the town's ability to operate effectively and make informed decisions. Now is not the time to replace town council, as it will disrupt our business plans, create instability, and potentially lead to a negative work outcome. It may also lead to loss of productivity during a period of transition and adjustment, which can lead to decreased efficiency. We need to keep a sense of continuity. We have lots going on with legal matters that need his attention. I'm involved in some of them, and some of them involve tens of millions of dollars in the cases that we're involved in. So I think he's needed now. Now's not the time to replace him, and that's all I wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Don Gibson.
For several reasons, I too would urge this board to retain the services of Bob Galvin as Marshfield's town council. And I make this request in several different capacities. First, as former town moderator for 6 years, I relied on Bob's sound advice and on his judgment prior to and during town meeting on many occasions when I had to resolve disputes involving town meeting members, to determine if a proposed amendment was legal or within the scope of an article, and how to respond to many other procedural matters that comes up during the course of a town meeting. And I can assure you and everyone here that town meeting, in Marshfield at least, is not for the faint of heart. He was calm and thoughtful when advising me as to what actions I could take, and equally important, as to what actions I could not take in accordance with our charter, the statutes, and the case law of the Commonwealth. He was not afraid to say no to power. Second, as a trial attorney with 49 years of litigation experience, I request that Bob be retained as town council in light of his amazing rate of success that the chief just touched on when appearing before the appellate courts, the administrative boards, and the commissions of the Commonwealth. He has won 80% of those cases where he has appeared on behalf of the town of Marshfield. In professional baseball, if you hit one time out of 3 at-bats, they put you in the Hall of Fame. Third, as a citizen, I want you to retain Bob as town council. He's a longtime resident of the town of Marshfield. He's lived here over 40 years. He is familiar with all of our distinct neighborhoods. How long, how many legal hours do you think it will take an outsider from a large firm to become familiar with all the ins and outs and needs and desires of Marshfield Center, Fieldston, Ocean Bluff, Wrexham, Brant Rock, Green Harbor, Marshfield Hills, and North Marshfield? What an asset to have someone who has that institutional knowledge that the chief referenced. Fourth, and finally, there may be some sentiment among certain members of the Select Board that the town needs a change with respect to personnel. Well, admittedly, change can be beneficial. Change, on the other hand, can also be chaotic and counterproductive. Change simply for the sake of change is tearing our country, our Commonwealth, and our town apart. Should we not prefer an accomplished municipal attorney who is a longtime Marshfield resident with a sterling legal track record, who gives us a local discount on his billing rate and is thoroughly familiar with all the legal challenges that our particular town poses, versus a total stranger from a larger firm who's going to charge us more and knows absolutely nothing about the lay of the land? I ask you to retain Bob as town council. It is money well spent, and I hope that the majority of the board will agree with that statement.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Mr. Don Clark?
Don Clark, T Rock Gardens. I'm here tonight also to express my support for the Pride Proclamation and all proclamations in general. I find it very disturbing that it was removed from the agenda, and especially if it was done by one person and one person only. As Mr. Darcy said, we're talking about human beings here. And if you think it's a political statement, like I heard you say last year, Mr. Kelly, when you voted against it, I don't want to politicize it. Well, that's your viewpoint. I think it should be up for the select board to vote on. If a majority of you vote against it, fine. At least it's being voted on. But to just remove it because you don't agree with it, it's just not right. I mean, it means a lot to a lot of the people going through, you know, who might be, you know, gay, lesbian, whatever, and the other proclamations that we've had that you voted against. I just, you know, I hope that it does get put back on the agenda for later this month and that the board gets to vote on it. And if for some reason it isn't, I urge the residents of Marshfield to remember in 2 years that the chairman of our board, Mr. Eric Kelly, is the person who voted against Pride proclamations, suicide awareness proclamation, opioid proclamations, Purple Heart proclamations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Janice Maloof Tomaso.
Good evening. Tonight I am here to express serious concerns regarding the conduct of Chair of the Select Board, Eric Kelly. The position you hold is one of responsibility meant to guide our town through complex challenges with transparency, integrity, and a collaborative spirit. Unfortunately, your actions have reflected the opposite. Rather than working toward progress, your leadership has repeatedly stalled critical town initiatives and deepened divisions. You have challenged the legal expertise of the town attorney despite having no formal background in municipal law, and you have done so publicly and combatively. Even more troubling is your pattern of behavior that includes isolating and insulting members of our community, including families of disabled individuals, veterans, and the LGBTQ+ residents. This is not behavior of a representative leader. It's irresponsible and harmful. In a time of real urgent challenges, such as the MBTA unfunded mandate and the need to bring our town budget into balance and looking for a new TA, we need level-headed, focused leadership. Instead, we're witnessing a circus. Personal agendas and an unwillingness to meet others in the middle. The meetings go on for hours with no resolution and no preparation. It's really embarrassing to watch. Please understand that you are not acting without scrutiny. A growing number of concerned residents are calling for a reorganization of the board, and if necessary, we are prepared to escalate this concern to ensure that Marshfield is governed with competence, respect, and accountability. We, the residents, deserve better. We need a select board chair who can unite, not divide, and who can focus on results and not his personal opinions. And we look to Ms. Simpson and Mr. Darcy to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malou. Ms. Janine Pavlik?
I'm a neighbor and personal friend of Mr. Galvin, and I can attest to his character. He's an outstanding member of this community. He loves this town and is vested in this town. Marshfield has the most knowledgeable and competent municipal attorney anywhere in Massachusetts. At this time, the Select Board does not have a lot of experience, and many people have expressed a lack of confidence in that lack of experience. Bob brings 32 years of experience. At this time. We need to keep him. It would be foolish to let him go. We're in the middle of a fight with the MBTA mandate, and it is never a good decision to change horses in the middle of a fight, of a race, also a fight. He's won many lawsuits brought against this town and will continue to, and I'm sure he's going to continue in this job. I ask that you put your personal feelings aside and do what is right for the town of Marshfield, and keep Bob Galvin as our town attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Pavlik. Mr. Jim Pavlik?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Pavlik, Pilgrim Trail. Just a little bit about myself. Retired Marine Corps Colonel, 30 years of honorable service to our country, and also a retired American Airlines check pilot. So I know a lot about leadership and character. I moved to Marshfield with my wife, Janine, October 1st, 1999, and we live 2 doors away from Attorney Galvin. And in these 26 years I've known Attorney Galvin, he's always done the right thing, and I know he always does what he knows is the right thing for our town. And he just has I think the world of him. His character and loyalty is impeccable. And I just want to echo the sentiments expressed by everyone else here that's in support of Attorney Galvin. And I just truly believe it would be a mistake for us to not rehire Attorney Galvin for his services. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pavlik. Mr. William Earls, I think it is?
Yes, my name is William Early. I live at 108 Cross Street in Marshfield. It's the site of the old Camp Millbrook. And I moved here from Tennessee back in 2006 and have been working with the town on the dam and the Chandler Pond, and working with the people down at the VFW on the dam removal there, and the people up in Duxbury at Camp Wing on the removal of their dam. And when I bought the property in 2006, I had a house built, and along with the property came the old mess hall that was on the site from back in the 60s when Jan Volk owned the property. And I spent a couple of years with Concom trying to get permits, because it was along the South River, to restore the building, to no avail. And at the time, I was doing some work in my primary house, and I had pulled the permit. And at the time, Michael Clancy was the building inspector. So Michael came over to check out what the electrical and the plumbing that was done in the work. And I said, Michael, what can I do? I'm trying to get this building that's fallen apart restored and bring it to life again. And Michael Clancy said to me, you need a good lawyer. I said, well, geez, I'm relatively new here. Who would be a good lawyer? He said, you want a real good lawyer? Look at Bob Galvin. So I researched local lawyers online, did my homework, and I chose Bob Galvin. Bob took the case, and he professionally presented the facts to the Mass DEP and to Concom. And after about a year of going back and forth, we successfully were able to redo the building at Camp Millbrook. You're all invited to see it today. It's got a lot of history with the Celtics and everything else. But with Bob's expertise, the Camp Millbrook came to life. Over the weekend, I spent time researching online about Bob Galvin. And he's been an attorney for over 30 years. And I remember back in 2012, he was my attorney. And that's when he was appointed as town council for Marshfield. It was great for Bob. It was terrible for me. It meant that I had to go find another lawyer. And it's not that I found a bad lawyer. I found an excellent lawyer. But you just don't take one lawyer and put all the history that that lawyer's done in some new lawyer's head. There's a lot of history that goes on in appointing a different lawyer, and the time that's going to be spent is going to be good money after bad at the end of the day by the time you get somebody up to speed. I could personally say that Bob is the most honest and dedicated attorney I have ever met. And as a business owner in Braintree, I had up to 250 people on Wood Road, and I had a lot of attorneys. I had labor attorneys, environmental attorneys, patent attorneys, and Bob tops them all. Bob is just outstanding. I also looked at the history of Bob in Norwell. I have a little bit of interest in Norwell because I grew up there. And I saw that Bob has been town council in Norwell since 1972. So you look and you say, Bob's been here since 2012. He's been in Norwell since 1972. What does that tell you about Bob Galvin? Bob's an individual that can be trusted. He's not corruptible. He's somebody that you can regularly find in the office when you drive by on a Saturday or Sunday working on town affairs. And I keep my boat in the winter down at Long Point. I'll stop by, I'll see his car. And I know he's accessible at 6 in the morning, at 7 o'clock at night. When you have something, Bob is always there. And I think it's important to know that Bob doesn't make the decisions. All right, the decisions are made in town by people that vote at elections, and I think they're made by the select board. And the select board will make decisions, and they'll say, okay, Bob, it's your job to follow through. And we're lucky to have somebody like Bob Galvin. You know, he gives his heart and soul to this town. You know, he's a small-town attorney who never shields away from large firms. And again, another example, I had a big, expensive misdiagnose at Herb Chambers one time years ago. And it cost me a lot of money. And I went to Bob, I said, Bob, what should I do? And Bob says, you should sue Herb Chambers. I'm like, oof, I'm not going to win with Herb Chambers. And Bob did all the legal work. He filed the case. And the night before we were going to court at Plymouth Court, this happened in Somerville, I got a call from George Chambers, the son of Herb. He said, Bill, you can't take us to court. I said, I have no choice, George. I says, you know, there's a problem here. You didn't do the right thing. And don't you know, through Bob's hard work, the next day, there was a courier at my front door in Marshfield with a check reimbursing me for what Herb Chambers did wrong. You know, Bob he's ethical, and he brings the highest level of transparency. And I think today, transparency is very important. He's solid. He gives you dependable advice. He comes up with his own opinion, regardless of how popular it will be. The reappointment tonight for Bob Galvin is a no-brainer. I said, Bob will continue to serve the town with the necessary knowledge of past events, and it's important to know that these past events are important for the select board because the select board changes every 2, 3, 4 years. There's a change of the select board, and there's a loss of history. Bob Galvin over there, he's got the history. He knows. You can go back and say, Bob, what did we do 5 years ago? He'll find the answer for you.
Ms. Early, can you wrap it up, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so I think it's paramount that we reappoint Bob Galvin. And one other thing, just in closing, I didn't know nothing about about the select board, two people voting for something to be on the agenda. This is the first time I heard it today. It's appalling to hear that. If we have 3 members and 2 put the suggestion to put it on the agenda, it should be put on the agenda. It's not the way to run business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Early. Mr. Sean Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Board of Select people. I'm Sean Patterson. If you don't know who I am, the DPW Superintendent here in Marshfield. And I'm going to echo what everybody else has just said about Mr. Galvin. I've worked here for 9 years. I've worked for 4 different communities. And I have to say, Bob is one of the best. In the town that I worked in prior to coming here, the select board decided to get rid of the town council that had been there for 32 years, and it was an absolute disaster afterwards. Be very careful what you wish for, because Bob is an expert. In doing the job I do, there's a lot of moving parts, and he's never, ever given me wrong advice. I'm going to echo what the chief said, and Mr. Gibson and others. He's approachable at any time. 6 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock. We've had different conversations on Sundays. I really appreciate all the good advice he's given me and direction, and I think it's very paramount that the town renews Bob's contract. It's a no-brainer, as Mr. Early said. And I also want to express my support towards my other colleagues that are up for reappointment as well. One of the things that drew me back to Marshfield was the sense of community, and I got to work with some of the best professionals I ever have in my career, 25 years being a department head. And I really appreciate working in this town, and I appreciate everybody's support, and I hope you do the right thing. And I don't see Diane here, so I'll speak on behalf of her, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. All she wanted to do was make sure that we put the playground committee on the agenda for next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. All right, that's it for public comment. We have an appointment here. It's 6:15. Actually, why don't we go to action items? We'll do number 1. Discussion of votes authorize Board of Public Works to commence audit previously approved by Article 13 of 2016 annual town meeting. So it's to my understanding that the Board of Public Works has been trying to initiate this, but it seems that there's some roadblocks in the way. So upon talking to Mr. Cusick, he felt that if the select board could give its blessings in regards to just getting this going so they could do the audit, which was approved by town meeting in 2016, the board would be gratefully appreciative in regards to taking this matter up. Do you have anything to comment?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. So addressing this first action item, I just want to make clear that this is something that the Board of Public Works has had the ability to do. They just need to declare what standard they want to use for the audit. Do you want to use our current indirect policy? Do you want to use a previous version of that policy? Or do you want to use an indirect policy version that perhaps another town has if you think that's a better measuring stick or a better standard? So that would be one thing that would be great to work out between our boards, because our indirect policy is 46 pages. So just the administrative waste for all the time our employees have to spend sorting through that mess and that bird's nest isn't great. So I think Norwell's is no longer than 3 pages. Oh, yeah, and sorry, and I'll pivot to Sean if that's okay when I'm done, but yeah.
I was going to say, if there's any questions you have, I'll get an answer.
Cool, yeah, thank you. I mean, Norwell's is no more than 3 pages, and it's based on simple percentages. And again, just the amount of, if you take the hourly rate for our employees, all the time it takes to go through our 46-page indirect policy, there's a lot of waste there. But I just want to make clear that this isn't really new information, that this has been communicated before. And I'll just read verbatim an email we have from town council, which seems pretty topical on a number of points tonight. So this is an email that our town council sent. Gentlemen, I wish to make it explicitly clear that Mr. Cusick's online statements do not reflect my opinions about an audit or forensic audit of the town's enterprise funds. I also want the record to be absolutely clear about my actual billing practices for the town and how legal fees are allocated to the Board of Public Works, which seems to be another source of false statements. It has always been my opinion that the town had the ability to appropriate funds for an audit or forensic audit outside of our annual audit. I want also to make it clear that I support an audit or forensic audit provided we inform the firm that is engaged what indirect cost policy we want to use, the former or the current, as well as the audit standard to determine if funds were allocated correctly or incorrectly to the Board of Public Works. I recall a time when town meeting was informed that there were some expenses allocated to the Board of Public Works that should not have been, and that there were 2 extra payments in consecutive town meetings in the vicinity of $250,000 or more to the Board of Public Works budget that reflected some sort of compromise and solution. I believe the Select Board is the appropriate executive branch to oversee the audit. However, I could support the Board of Public Works overseeing it as long as there is certainty in what is being asked and there is a standard for the audit known in advance. I also believe that the firm should be selected on a competitive basis based on proposals and with a written contract containing the essential terms. This has been my opinion for years, and I still recall looking at a draft contract that Mr. Bowen had shown me, and when I asked what standard was being used as a basis for the audit and no one had an answer, I indicated to him that this was not an audit. I do not support an audit that does not have a benchmark standard because that is not an audit. It is a report that is intended to come to a preordained conclusion. The former treasurer-collector, Mr. Delarusso, opined years ago that conduct of such an audit could affect the bond rating of the town and opposed it on that basis. While I am concerned about this, as you should be, I feel that if there is an adverse impact, the town was forewarned by him and would have to accept that consequence if that occurs. I encourage everyone to determine that question, but that is not any type of legal obstacle to an audit. I have been told that Mr. Cusick did not agree to the current indirect cost policy. I do not know what the rest of the Board of Public Works, past or present, think. However, I also know and have heard the past town administrator and select board say that if the Board of Public Works does not like the current indirect cost policy, they are willing to support having an independent consultant produce a new one with the cost shared between the town and the Board of Public Works, and with the understanding that all agree to be bound by the new policy. This is something I have heard repeatedly stated over the years, and I would also be supportive of that. Mr. Cusick also states that I defrauded the Board of Public Works many years ago when I billed the town $65,000 or more. My actual legal bills for the DPW were only $10,000 or so, and $65,000 in legal expenses were allocated by the town administrator or treasurer-collector to the various DPW enterprises. Mr. Cusick asked people to infer that I had something to do with the allocation of $65,000 to the Board of Public Works. Almost none of this is true. When I started working for the town in 2012, I simply sent one bill for everything I did to the town without breaking out what I did for the town or the DPW. When I was asked to change this practice and bill for town and DPW separately, I gladly agreed to do that, and have done this maybe for 10 years, more or less. My bills are detailed and in very small intervals of tenths of an hour. Without my involvement or knowledge, the former town administrator and former treasurer-collector allocated significantly more legal expense to the Board of Public Works than I actually billed to the DPW. When Mr. Cusick raised this issue years ago with the former town administrator, I asked why this was done, and I was told that the town, and not me, allocated a percentage of the total legal cost of the DPW and not just what was actually billed, and this was done pursuant to an indirect cost policy. I relayed this at the time to Mr. Cusick, and he chooses not to acknowledge this. The fact is that I bill the town accurately and I bill the DPW accurately. I looked at the bills from EPG, and they don't give any detail as to what was done and have a large lump sum of hours without any explanation of the detail of the work. Not once have I seen anyone question the propriety of such vague billing. And EPG is a consulting firm, and that's one of the ones that was used to do the aquifer study on the Bridle Trail, Bob, is that right? Okay, thank you. Just today, I was told Mr. Cusick looked at my legal bills for last year, and he added them up to $10,000. He also states that this year's Board of Public Works allocation under the new indirect cost policy was $28,000 or so. Logically, I did not do $28,000 in legal work for the Board of Public Works, but I never claimed to have done that amount of work for the Board of Public Works. I billed a larger sum than $28,000 to the town last year. If there is an allocation to the Board of Public Works above what the actual expense is or was, it has zero to do with me, and it is not any type of fraud on the Board of Public Works. This is a calculation done by the treasurer-collector, as I was informed. I think it's incumbent on every person to speak honestly and fairly about such matters, and I'm asking the Board of Public Works to make sure that the other members have the correct information and do not repeat false information or malign people. If you or your board believe that any statements are inaccurate, I hereby request the opportunity to meet with you and discuss these matters in public session of the Board of Public Works. So, long story short, they can do this. They got to pick the standard what they want to use. Bob was very clear about this years ago and has been very clear. And I think really the underlying issue here is we need a new indirect cost policy that's closer to 3 pages than it is to 46, and we make a more efficient use of our employees' time. So that's all I have, unless Peter or Bob or Sean wanted to add any context. Yep.
You got any comments?
No, I'd like to hear from Sean.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're going back 9 years, and nobody in this room other than Mr. Galvin was on the boards or the town administrator, so there was a lot of cloudiness with the indirect cost and so forth. What the board is asking for is to let us do an RFP to hire somebody to come in and do a deep dive into the enterprise accounts in the DPW budget. I'm totally in favor of it. It's transparent. Everybody's going to know what's going on. I think it's definitely needed. We have an $18.5 million budget. I think we need to scrutinize it a little better. So that's what they want to do, and I hope that the board will move in that direction to allow us to get an RFP and bring a professional in to look at the whole big picture. We had the money allocated. We took $20,000 out of each enterprise account. We have $60,000 sitting in the bank. That was 9 years ago, so I don't know how much it's going to be now, but we have something to get started with. And I do ask the board that we move in that direction to get an RFP.
Go ahead.
So, do we have to come up with that 3-page? No, we don't.
No.
That'll be something between the select board and I think the Board of Public Works in regards to.
So what I would like to clarify, and Sean, if I could, looking at Article 13 from 2015, it's an independent auditing firm to audit the enterprise funds for a period not to exceed 5 years. A lot of the focus has been on the charging of indirect costs, which apparently was a point of contention at the time, but this, and what you're saying tonight is what you'd rather have is a look at overall how the enterprise funds are used and not focusing primarily on indirect costs going back. Both, okay. So you don't have to create the indirect cost policy per se. What you want to do is, and what would be prudent is to state in the RFP and the subsequent contract what criteria we're using. Are we using the 40-page that you described? Are we using the one before the 40-page one that was just based on percentages? Are we using the state's suggested Department of Revenue standard, or are we using in other towns? It's important that if you're going to do an audit, that you're auditing against
some set of standards to see if those standards are complied with or where the deviations are. So when you're going into it, you know what the rules are. And it's important that you have that so that, pardon the continuation of a sports metaphor, the goalposts aren't moved. You know what the rules are, and then you can compare what you find and see what the deviations are. And then you have a report, and then you can work on that report to modify your procedures to bring them into a standard that you're more satisfied with. So I think that, again, as has been expressed previously, the important thing is to lay out clearly what the rules are. And so that anybody who's applying to perform the audit knows what the expectations are. And you know what the expectations are, and the DPW knows what the expectations are. Be happy to work with DPW to write the RFP. I don't think it would be very difficult to do. We just have to agree on the criteria. Yeah. So,
Anything else? All right, it would be my understanding that, I know, speaking to Mr. Cusick about it, and we would discuss the methodology that should be used for this would be the one that was implemented at the time for the, whatever was enacted during the 2016 town meeting. Would I be correct about that?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Mr.
I mean, everybody's saying, because I know the methodology was done over, I think, afterwards, which I think Steve is relating to is a
I think,
46
yeah,
page sheet.
subsequent
So the whole
to
thing
the
is that
2016 meeting, the
Oh,
methodology
we
was
can use
changed.
something that was created after the 2016
Right.
town meeting, right? You got something to say, Sean?
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
I talked to Mr. Cusick today, and Mr. Moran, would you be willing to sit down with Mr. Cusick and I so we can discuss which
Sure.
would be the best path
Yeah.
to go forward?
Yep.
As long as the board is okay with that, we can do that and
Speak to the
get an RFP going.
Can I speak to that?
Please, Mr. Cusick.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Hello, folks, hi. Okay. Yeah, Annie. Sit over there with your friend Marlene. How you doing? Well, my name is John Cusick, and I've been on the Board of Public Works for over 11 years. So I want to thank the board for putting this on the agenda for a forensic audit that was passed in 2016 overwhelmingly by town meeting. What happened was we created an RFP, and we actually did have that posted, and it was stopped, I believe, after 3 or 4 days by the existing select board. So we couldn't go any further because the select board would not allow that RFP to go out to bid. So what I'm asking, and from my other board members, is the support for an RFP that you guys will support. We can create the RFP. We just need the permission and the support of the select board in order to put that out to bid for a CPA. A CPA is exempt from 30B. So we can get the best of the best, and we don't have to worry about picking the low of the low. So I appreciate your time. I've been working on this for a number of years, just for some type of historical information. The Board of Public Works, since I've been on the board, has never voted to accept the indirect costs as written. We have never voted. We've always voted against it. So I think it's time. I appreciate your putting this on the agenda, and I'm just, through my other board members, I'm asking for your support for an RFP that we can go over with the select board and perhaps town council and move forward for this audit that's long overdue. As the saying goes, the mill grinds slow, but it grinds mighty fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cusick.
You're welcome.
So I would look at that, I'd say put a motion forward that,
That's okay, Mike. I'll
that we
second.
vote to authorize the Board of Public Works to commence an audit that was previously approved at town meeting by Article 13 of the 2016 town meeting, pending an agreement on the RFP. Would that sound okay there, Peter?
Yeah, fine, I can work with that.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so for appointments, I have a 6:15 appointment. Honorary Marshfield citizen, Sophia Lagunas Herrera. Welcome, Sophia, and we ask you to tell you a little about yourself, what brought you to Marshfield, and your experience as an exchange student at the Marshfield High School.
Should I say it?
Yeah.
Hi.
You know,
You want the microphone close?
Oh. Hi.
Hi.
What should I say?
If you
Okay.
want, your friend can sit with you for moral support if you want to join her.
so just some background on you, like what made you come to Marshfield?
Well-
Exchange student, you know.
Well, my name is Sofia, and I'm from Chile, and I've been here this past 10 months, living the experience of being a student, a high school student in the U.S. and here in Marshfield. And I've been staying with my host family, that is Jennifer Green and Paige Green. And it's been just such a wonderful experience. I love it. And I feel like the school is so good. People are so nice, just so welcoming. Since the first day I came here, everyone was so interested in who I am and sharing their culture, the U.S. culture, and learning about my culture. Also, I don't know, in school, all teachers were so kind to me, always helping me, and the students also always so respectful. And I was trying to, I don't know, give back all that love they gave to me. Every day, being I don't know, smiling at them and being very respectful to them. And whenever they have I don't know, a question about my country, I always was trying to, I don't know, answer in the best way possible so they can learn about me and my country. Yeah, but it's been a wonderful experience. I don't want to leave, but that's life. I have to go back. But yeah, it's wonderful. I love Marshfield.
Would you consider coming back?
Oh yeah, of course. Just
What are the best, I guess, to ask, and I don't want to put you on the spot, I guess, but what do you think are the best aspects of Marshfield?
I feel people are very kind. That's the biggest thing. I live in a city, a big city, so people are always stressed and rushing, and most of the time not very kind to people because they're in their own things. They're trying to, they have the stress of work or the stress of just, I don't know, life in the city. And here I feel everyone's, it's so calm. And people are always respectful, always saying please, always saying thank you. Yeah, and just with that smile on their face every day, that it's very refreshing. I don't know, it's just different, and it's different in a good way. I love it. Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Steve?
What will you not miss about Marshfield?
I had to think. I don't know, because I think every I don't know, maybe I mean, it's a more general thing, like the food in the U.S. I don't like it. I feel like it's very, like, I don't know, it has a lot of chemicals, and that's very different. Like, I eat weird, I mean, not weird things, but the things I eat here are completely different, like, taste are more, I don't know, they taste more like sugar or like salt. And I don't know, for example, Oreos. I have Oreos in my country, but here are too sweet. They're like really, really sweet. So I don't know.
You probably don't have double stuffed Oreos, do you?
No, we don't.
No.
We just have normal Oreos.
I saw a Supreme Oreo and I was horrified. I was like, oh God.
A Supreme.
Yeah, go look at it. Yeah, Star Market, before you leave, Supreme Oreo.
Oh, wow.
Greatest food ever invented.
Bring it home to show it off. Like, look what we got here.
Yeah, also the sizes. The sizes of the food is like really big sizes. Like, I don't know. I feel like 2 people can eat from that.
Yeah, our problem is value equals size, not anything else. Taste, quality, healthy.
Yeah.
That is it.
That's it.
When do you leave?
June 30th. So it's like 2 weeks left.
Are you going to do anything exciting before you leave?
I mean, I having like a going away party, one with my friends and I with family. So I'm very excited for that. That I think I'm going to Boston one day.
Good. Good. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed Marshfield.
Yeah, I love it.
Isn't that nice to hear about how good the people are?
Better than the food.
Would you mind if we took a picture with you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, and actually, before we go, I just want to read the presentation here. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Marshfield, presented by Select Board to Sophia Lagunas Herrera. By virtue of the authority vested in us by the laws of the Commonwealth, we hereby name you as an honorary citizen of the Town of Marshfield. Witness I hand and seal the Town of Marshfield on this day, Monday, the 16th day of June, in the year 2025. And it has all 3 of our signatures on it, so.
Thank you.
Somebody be able to take our picture?
There's a lot of nuclear suppers.
Right. Like, we eat a lot of salad. We eat a lot of salad.
You are the highlight, too. I wish you well.
Have fun at your party. I'm sure. I'm sure. Bye-bye. So sweet.
Actually, we got less than a minute. We can have Greg come up. Actually, we're gonna call him up now, and then by the time he gets up.
Yeah, great.
This is gonna be the 6:30 Beach Nourishment Project update. Greg Guimond, Lisa Fields, and Rod Procaccino.
Rod is not here.
Okay, thank you. Are you gonna step in for him, Sean, at all, or?
Need to, I sure can.
Okay,
I may not know a lot, but.
all right.
Want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. Hello, good night, or good evening. My name's Leslie Fields. I work with the Woods Hole Group, and we are the consulting firm that worked with the town on this project. It's basically a beach nourishment project along the Bay Ave shoreline in Marshfield. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this slide here just highlights the need for the project. And it was basically to build up and bring in sand to critically eroded shorelines in the town of Marshfield for the reasons of protecting public and private infrastructure from storm damage, for protecting the seawalls and the revetments that are designed to protect the infrastructure behind, for minimizing wave overtopping and flooding, and to build a recreational beach and enhance the coastal ecosystem. So those are the reasons for the project. Next slide, please. This slide simply highlights, where we started and where we've been. We've been working on this project since 2020, and the town has received a number of grants from the Coastal Zone Management Coastal Resiliency Program. Between FY '20 and '23, they've received up to $610,000 to basically identify beaches within the town of Marshfield and Duxbury. At this time, Marshfield and Duxbury were working together. So to identify beaches in those two towns that were suitable for nourishment, and those are shown by the areas, colored areas in that graphic on the left. And then also to develop engineering designs for the beach and dune nourishment, and to get the permits. So we did that between FY '20 and '23. And then in FY '24, both towns working together received, I think, the biggest grant that was awarded that year, $4.3 million from the Coastal Zone Management Program for construction of a beach nourishment project in Bay Ave and further south into Duxbury. So that's that yellow area that's shown there on the south. And then this last year, in FY '25, with the town of Marshfield alone, acting alone this time, got a $2.2 million grant for construction of the Bay Ave Beach Nourishment Project. Next slide, please. So this slide here just shows a little bit about that Bay Ave and Gurnett Road beach nourishment design. The bigger polygon on the left that's hatched is the complete design. That's what we ended up with when we did the engineering work and the design and the permitting. So that's a project that encompasses 38 acres. It's 480 some odd thousand cubic yards of material over 5,090 linear feet in front of 82 different properties. When we built the project year before this last one in '23-24, so that was both Marshfield and Duxbury. That's the darker yellow area that's shown on that left-hand graphic. So during that time period, we put in 82,100 cubic yards, about 28,700 in Marshfield, and 53,000 in Duxbury. Next slide, please. And then this year was a much smaller project. So it's just in the area of Marshfield up to the north, as you can see. We put 45,645 cubic yards of material, constructed that project over a 5-week period from February 10 to March 14th. We were able to, originally we thought we were going to be able to put 36,600 cubic yards, but we were able to put more because we got such a good price for the sand. So that was a bonus to the contractor that was selected. All right, next slide, please. The sediment that was used for the nourishment, that's what this slide depicts here. It was a mixture of sand, gravel, and cobble used throughout the nourishment footprint, and it was a requirement from the regulatory agencies to use that mixture of material to match what was on the beach before and to try to maintain sort of some longevity to the beach. So the coarser the material we have on the beach, the longer that material will stay. If it's all sand or very fine-grained sand, we're going to lose that material a lot quicker. So that's why the regulatory agencies required this mixture of sand, gravel, and cobble. I will say that when that material came in, it came from a Duxbury DPW construction site, pictured on the left here. There were a number of sort of larger boulder-sized rocks, so boulders, and some root material. And so the contractor worked very closely with the DPW, Rod from DPW and others, to go out on 4 different occasions and remove as much of those boulders as they could and the root material. So, the contractor came in and, like I said, and tried to remove all that material that he could see at the time. The 2 figures on the right were taken before the nourishment project this year, and you can see the beach was a mixture of sand, gravel, and cobble. So that's that middle photograph, and the one on the right is just a close-up of the gravel. So again, we were trying to replicate what was there before. All right, next slide, please. And here's just some photos. So the top photo at the top shows you with the yellow arrow where the photo was taken, what direction they're looking at. Both of these were sort of taken looking at that Bay Ave ramp. The left one is before the nourishment. The right one is after the nourishment in April of '25. So what I see in that left-hand photo is that the high tide line is all the way up to the base of that ramp before the nourishment project. And there was much lower. You can see the entire ramp and some of the riprap stones in front of the seawall on the left and the right. And in the post-nourishment project photograph in April of 2025, you can see that sort of wet-dry line where the high water is, dry sand behind, and the beach is much higher. So you've got a wider, higher beach that translates into more protection for the properties behind. Next slide, please. And this is another one just a little bit further to the north. The photo on the left was taken during the project, but before they had spread the material further to the north. And what I want you to notice is at the base of the seawall, you can see that extra sort of base of the seawall, you can see the toe stones, and you can see how narrow the beach was at high tide, so maybe only 5 or 10 feet. And then the photo on the right, in March of 2025, much wider beach, probably 40 to 50 foot wide at high tide, and much higher because you don't see those toe stones along the base of the river, or the seawall. Next slide, please. In the next few slides, I'm thankful to Greg for going out and taking some photos this morning, just showing you what the beach looks like now. So this is, again, sort of standing near that Bay Ave ramp looking north. Again, you can see that you still got quite a bit of elevation to the beach. You don't see those toe stones in front of the seawall, and you've got some width to the beach, high tide beach, so 40 to 50 feet wide at high tide. There is a mixture of sediment sizes on the beach, so sand, some gravel, and some cobbles, which you see in that photo on the right. Next slide, please. Okay, this is looking to the south, back towards the Bay Ave ramp. One thing I wanted to point out in that left-hand photo, you can see little patches of areas where that coarser material has accumulated. And so you'll see that from time to time. They'll move, they'll dissipate, they'll form again. So that is something that you should expect. On the photo to the right, I think you can see in the middle, sort of a bigger, that's probably a boulder that was sort of out of spec, that, wasn't removed from the beach. There are still, a handful of those out on the beach, but by and large, it is what was spec'd, so sand, gravel, and cobble. Next slide. And then this is the last one, just showing post-construction today. So you can see, this is, what's the name of this ramp on the left of the street? Brighton? Brighton Street ramp. And so you can see that the elevation of the beach is quite a bit higher. You don't see the base of that seawall at all, or any of the toe stones. And then this photo on the right is the land, or the ramp, the beach access point further north. And again, much higher, wider beach. You do see some sort of grouping of some of the coarser material. As I said, that will come and go over time. Next slide, please. Okay, I also wanted to point out that as a requirement of the permits, the town is required to do shorebird monitoring for a period of 3 years after they do nourishment. So this is the first year, and then 2 more if you don't do any more nourishment. All that monitoring needs to be in compliance with state and federal guidelines for recreational beach. So that means you've got to have a certified shorebird monitor. In this case, the town hired Mass Audubon to do the monitoring here and then further to the north at the area, the beach, public beach right south of the jetty. They have been monitoring the beach since the beginning of April. They have not detected any activity in the area where the nourishment occurred. So long as that continues that way, and we expect it will, I think that they'll stop the monitoring in this area around July. Next slide. I just added this one here just to let you know that, you should expect to see some changes in the beach. So during the summer, when you have the smaller, sort of calmer waves, those act to push material up onto the beach. You're going to have a higher, wider beach up near the seawall. During the winter, when you have the bigger waves, that tends to pull that material offshore. You've got a narrower beach, and it sometimes forms a sandbar in the nearshore area. That sandbar can act to trip waves and prevent larger waves from affecting the beach during the summer. I'll also add that, incremental nourishment, renourishment every once in a while is a really good idea. If you can continue to get grant funding for things like this, it's a good idea to keep pursuing it and working with Duxbury to the south. The longer you can build these nourishment projects, the longer they last. All right, next slide. And this just is some highlights. So again, we increased the width and elevation of the beach and the intertidal beach. That helped to provide protection for public and private infrastructure from wave overtopping. We've added a significant supply of sediment to a sediment-starved system, enhanced the recreational beach, and all of this acts to protect the investments that the town of Marshfield put into rebuilding these seawalls a couple of years ago. Next slide. Okay, that's happy to answer any questions.
I really don't have any on this. I mean, I kind of got a good idea of it from all the past. You got any questions, Steve, on it?
Yeah, is beach nourishment one of the grants you can't get if you're not in compliance with the MBTA Communities Act?
So far, no.
Oh, that's good. And I always love when you guys explain how you pick what your process is that you go through and you pick exactly the spot where you're going to do the beach nourishment because of where the wave breaks and how it kind of pushes and distributes out. So can you kind of go through why you pick this spot or where you have to be careful where exactly you place the beach nourishment so you don't totally waste it?
Yeah, sure. Because of the way the waves sort of bend and interact with the nearshore topography and the entrance to Green Harbor, there are places where the wave direction is predominantly to the north and areas where it's predominantly to the south. And in between, that's what we call a nodal zone. And so there is a nodal zone here. It sort of moves around, as you might imagine. And so if we were to put all the material to the north and further north up into Marshfield, a lot of that would just continue to migrate up to the north and end up in Green Harbor where we have to dredge it every year.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why we stopped the project where we did and didn't go any further north.
And you also had a intertidal rocky zone. And there are other places in town where, when we had to do the original permitting, we couldn't get permits to do beach nourishment because of the inter-rocky tidal shore.
Right, correct. Yeah, so that's a resource, intertidal, rocky intertidal is a resource that is good for habitat for fisheries and shellfish, and that's something that the state does a good job of trying to protect and preventing us from, covering with sand.
Yeah. Thank you. And then this is my last one. It's more of kind of a big picture question. So Marshfield, relative to Duxbury, is more kind of a seawall oriented than I would say that Duxbury is for the most part. I mean, what are kind of the merits of both approaches in terms of what might be a best fit as we think long term about kind of defending our coastline?
First of all, I'd say that most of the developed part of Duxbury South has also got seawalls and revetments.
Yeah.
So you guys are the same in that regard, essentially.
Yeah.
The seawalls are here. I don't expect you to take them down.
Yeah.
But if we could do it all over again, 50, 60 years ago, it would be better not to have the seawalls because they limit the supply of sediment to the beaches. So if the seawalls aren't there, then the natural landform can erode and provide sediment to the beaches, and it can all evolve more naturally. It would mean that, living right along the shoreline would be more difficult, and that's exactly why the seawalls were built. I think you'll continue to have problems with flooding and whatnot, but this is a way to sort of, in the short term, minimize those damages from flooding and overtopping
Thank you.
during low-energy storms. I'm not going to say that this beach nourishment project is going to protect you from a really big storm. You're still going to have flooding and overtopping. This is more for lower energy storms.
So we're safe from like a Jeb Bush style storm.
What
Jeb
style?
Bush style storm, low energy.
Okay, I got it. Sure.
Okay, I'm done.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Trish. Get in.
No, that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very informative.
That's it.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Let's see here.
Collins Center is here if you want to take them.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. It's not Mary, it's going to be Phil Lemnos. If you
What
want
is
to
that?
take, if you want to take the Collins Center, he's here. Mary Accardi is on vacation, so.
7:15, take it?
Yeah, it's not a public hearing. You could take it out of order.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the town administrator search coordinate, consultant interview. I guess Ms. Mary Accardi cannot be here from the Collins Center, but there's another replacement.
Yeah, this is Phil Lemnios, who is the former longtime, he's a consultant with the Collins Center right now. He's a former longtime town administrator in the town of Hull. He's previously worked in Natick as well. Phil, am I right?
Yep.
Anywhere else you want to throw in there?
City of Attleboro.
City of Attleboro, okay.
Started about 33 years ago. Peter, first of all, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
And members of the board, thank you very much for the opportunity to address you. So my name is Phil Lemnios. I'm a retired town manager from the town of Hull. Served there for 2 stints for a total of about 20 years. So I watched with great joy your beach nourishment project. I'm very familiar with that topic. I also served as the town administrator in Natick, and I started my career in Massachusetts as the assistant to the mayor in Attleboro, which was a grant-funded position from the state to bring professional management into that city. I don't know what materials you have, so I did make copies of the proposal for you. Some single-sided, some double-sided.
Thank
You guys
you.
get the single-sided.
Thank you.
Mr. Galvin, I don't have an extra.
It's okay.
See you again.
Good to see you as well.
And I do have one copy that you can pass around, and I'll reference this a little bit. This is a copy of the community profile that we produce when we offer these services to communities. So, I know it's been a little bit of time since you saw the proposal. The Collins Center, in particular Mary Accardi, who will be the lead on this particular program, has done over 100 town administrator, town manager searches. The Collins Center was established through a legislative act. It's out of UMass Boston, and the sole purpose of the center is to assist cities and towns with a variety of studies or projects of this nature. So the Collins Center does classification and compensation studies, creating job descriptions and such, does financial studies, does organizational studies, and so forth, very well suited to this kind of an engagement. The process we go through, the first step is to sit with members of the select board and get an understanding of what your observations are for the position, what your objectives are for the position, and so forth. We then do a deep dive into the community to produce the community profile that I passed out. And that community profile basically serves as the vehicle for prospective candidates to see if Marshfield will be a good fit for them. So it provides prospective candidates with quite a bit of information about the community. It gives them a sense of what the big issues in the community are, what the finances are, what the environment of Marshfield is, so that you make sure you're attracting candidates that are qualified and serious candidates. Once that piece of the puzzle is complete, the position is advertised. The Collins Center strongly recommends that you create a screening committee, and the screening committee should not have on it any elected officials, any employees. It really should be 5 citizens at large, and citizens that first and foremost can meet. Because there's a time crunch here, right? We want to get the job done, and we want to make sure that we have members of the committee that are available to review the resumes that are received and to ultimately provide to the select board 3, 4 candidates that the committee feels would be suitable for the position. The select board would then go through that selection process. Every step of the way, the Collins Center is with you. We help the advisory, semifinal committee or the advisory committee create their questions. We'll work with the select board to create any questions and guide that process until you get a successful candidate. There's also quite a bit of recruitment that goes on. So not only is there the posting of the position in a variety of professional settings, but we will also reach out to folks we think may be good candidates for the position. And many times, the best candidates are people who actually aren't looking, but they are enticed and they're interested in trying to apply. So it's a very dynamic period in Massachusetts right now for open positions. So there are, quite a few openings going on, but the Collins Center will work with you hand in hand to make sure that you folks get the right candidate for your community at this critical juncture, because you're going through a very significant change, something you haven't done in quite a while. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you may have.
In regards to, we're just getting your paperwork, obviously, but in regards to your advertising, what are your advertising avenues that you use?
Well, we
advertise the position.
Sure, we do a variety of associations. So we'll do, in Massachusetts, there are several associations for managers and folks of that nature, and then there's some national associations. And then we'll also reach out through networks that members of the staff have. And, you know, first and foremost, we'll talk to other staff members on the Collins Center and say, if you're aware of anybody that this position may fit, please reach out. The Collins Center has kind of two categories of folks that are involved with it. There's a relatively small full-time staff, and then there are folks like myself who are associates who do part-time work with the center and are retired but have broad exposure to our subject areas. So we do quite a bit of work reaching out to candidates as well as advertising in kind of the traditional professional settings that you would expect to find folks. We're not going to advertise in the Boston Globe or things of that nature. You're not going to get a candidate from the Boston Globe.
All right, so I mean, when you say you're gonna advertise through associations or networks, as you say, I mean, can you give more detail?
Sure. Let me just find a couple of the names here. I'm just want to go through the notes. So first of all, the International City Management Association, ICMA, which is the largest association in the United States for professional managers. So that's a very large organization. They have a web presence and a newsletter presence and a job recruitment presence in all 50 states, as an example. We'll also reach into candidacy pools for diversity as well. So there are some subcategories in ICMA that has candidates of color and so forth. We'll make sure that those areas are covered. And again, we'll also do professional recruiting within Massachusetts from folks that we know may be interested in a position. The MMA Beacon will have the listing, which is the Mass Municipal Association Beacon, which is kind of the newsletter. It's all electronic now, but the newsletter that comes out frequently, at least once a month. And there's a jobs board on that, and many candidates will be aware of that from Massachusetts as well.
So are these, I guess, networks or associations, I mean, are they all like government associated, I guess you could look at?
Well, they're like most professional networks or most professional associations. They're primarily geared and focused, and the people who are kind of reading those are folks that are in a given profession. So they are not governmentally run, but they are associated with folks that are in the profession and are looking to get information about their profession. Each one of those organizations has an educational component where they will offer opportunities for professionals to learn about kind of the latest best practices and things of that nature. And they also do have a component that has got an employment component.
So I mean, in regards to how you're going to advertise this and network, I mean, are you going to be looking at people that are already within the field, I guess, of it, or are you
Well, first of all,
private sector? Are we looking for private sector people as well?
The first thing we'll look at is your charter and see if the charter has any preconditions as to what the nature of a town administrator in Marshfield, you know, what educational components, so forth. There are some communities, for instance, I just did a search in another community where their charter specifically said the person had to have had a master's degree in public administration, as an example. That was that particular community's charter. So the first step we're going to look at is is there a local town charter that says a town administrator must have 7 years of experience, 10 years of whatever it might be. If your charter is silent on that, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation with the select board no matter what to try to get an understanding of what are the characteristics and qualifications that you may be interested in a town administrator candidate. From there, we will craft the job description. You vote and approve that profile. That's not something that we would ever issue without your approval. So we're going to create a draft profile similar to the one that I'm circulating for you. And then you will have control, ultimate vote over that profile. So if we don't have it quite right, you're going to have an opportunity to take out your red pen and make it right.
So when you bring up the diversity aspect of it, what is the goal of that?
The goal of that, first of all, is to make sure that we reach as broad a category of citizens or candidates as we can to make sure as many candidates are aware of the opportunity. And that's it. That's the goal.
All right, so it's not like you're looking to you look at, put somebody of, in that category above somebody else just because they fit a certain.
No, just so you, again, you understand that the process is really, we provide a framework and we provide guidance, but every critical decision is under the control of either your semifinal board or your advisory board, or ultimately the select board. So the screening committee will see all the resumes that come in. We don't screen resumes, we don't knock people out of contention without you folks seeing them. The screening committee then goes through a process, and we'll provide some guidance for the screening committee of selecting who they would like to interview. So for instance, in the community I was just recently involved with, they had, I think, 36 applicants. The screening committee ultimately chose to interview 8 of those 36. And of those 8, they are forwarding, I think it's 4 to the select board for final consideration. So we help guide that process. We provide professional input. There may be candidates that we're aware of, and we will provide the screening committee background on those candidates that may have an impact on the screening committee's decision. And those are usually candidates that we're kind of advising the committee that perhaps their resume doesn't completely align with their experience, those kind of things. And that's one of the benefits of having people who have been involved in the profession for a long time in this process. But we do not make the selection of the semifinalists. We do not make the selection of the finalists. That's all under your control, or the community's control.
Yes, please. So I don't know very many retired TAs and TMs, but you and Peter both have a very calming presence and demeanor. So whatever.
I worked with Peter for many years. Peter was one of the folks that helped to start the South Shore Regional Communications Center, which services 4 communities. And so we had an opportunity to serve on that board together.
And sometimes we spoke louder than this.
We did, yes, we did. But we had a very good
Very good
collaborative
working relationship. Yeah.
Awesome. So the first question I have is for Peter and Bob partially, just because the timeline that we're looking at in this presentation is about 4 months, and Peter had a 3 to 4 month contract, and we're probably more than midstream across there. So not to put anyone on the spot, but we love you, Peter. You know, if you want to get us to the finish line, that'd be great. But Bob, how would that process work?
You would either have to make a contract with Mr. Moran, or you would have to put out and obtain somebody else.
Got it. Well, we'll try to keep you happy. Get a yes out of you. So for this process, could you give an example of, if you have one that's applicable, maybe one community where you guys were hired and the process went really well and the reasons why, and then if there was a community where it didn't quite go so well and what some of the pitfalls were?
Yeah, I guess probably, I'm trying to think of a name of a community. Well, I've just recently come into this, so I'm probably not the best person to ask for that particular.
Norwell, it worked out well.
It did work out well.
Yeah, I got hired there.
So, but I can tell you as a general proposition, having been, first of all, a candidate on the other side of the table several years ago, so I kind of understand what this process is as a candidate. And my observations, having been a manager that used this process for department level folks and so forth, that the first and foremost component of a successful search is getting a very clear understanding of what the expectations are. So the conversation with the select board, individual select board members, will be very, very important to crafting that community profile. So that's just really get an understanding of, you know, what your expectations are. And we have to also make sure, though, those expectations kind of line up with your town charter or any other local bylaws relative to this position. So, you know, those things are very critical. The next component for a successful search is the outreach that the center will do through its staff to make sure that you do get candidates that are qualified. The screening committee component is really important, and you have to think long and hard who you're going to put on that committee. You should put, again, 5 citizens who are able to meet frequently in a relatively short period of time. Folks, hopefully, that don't have an axe to grind or, you know, or some kind of a, you know, heavy agenda. And we all know in every single community, there are folks that, have bigger agendas than other folks. You really want to try to get folks that are going to offer you kind of a good set of candidates so that you will have a good choice. Because ultimately, whoever you choose is, going to be your representative to the community. So it's a very important choice that you're going to be making. And so the makeup of the screening committee is really important, and I would urge you to give that a lot of thought. I know you will. And that committee, if it's efficient, the process moves right along, and you will get, a number of candidates presented to you that are qualified. The one thing that also makes for a successful search is to not give final interviews to candidates as a matter of courtesy or anything of that nature. You really should only be seeing candidates that can do the job. So there are some places where this will go off, where I've seen it go off the rails, where somebody says, okay, we've got 3 candidates that are great, but we're going to give a courtesy interview to candidate number 4. There should be no courtesy interviews. This is a very serious choice. This is a choice that will impact your community for many years to come. The person who you choose has, a great deal of responsibility and has to be able to be competent in the position from day one. Now, competency in the position can mean a lot of different things. You should not have the expectation that the person is going to know Marshfield inside and out. They're going to have a learning curve about the community, about the people in the community that speak louder, speak softer. They just have a learning curve getting to know a new board, and you'll have that same learning curve as well. But the key is identifying a candidate that is interested in working here, has the technical competency, has the people skills to do the job, because that's a very soft skill that's it's not necessarily taught in schools, but it's something that's a very important skill in my estimation for a town administrator candidate, and somebody that is committed to having integrity, is willing to tell you good news as well as bad news.
And, we're going to get together and meet and talk about what we're looking for in a potential town administrator candidate a little bit down the road, but it takes 2 to tango. So I've asked Peter this question before, and I'll ask you the same question, right? You've been on the other side of the table too. So when there's a town administrator looking to apply to different communities, what kind of things do they look at, or what do they look for before they decide to apply?
Well, in the community, I just did the search, and the administrator who's retiring had been there for quite a while, and one of the most common themes that I heard from candidates when the screening committee asked them, why did you apply for the position, is they said that, the tenancy of the incumbent was important. So they want to know, they're not necessarily looking for a 20-year commitment, but they want to know they're coming to a community that is going to give them a fair shot to perform, isn't going to just kind of jettison them after, the first year or second year if everything isn't going perfectly. They want a fair shot at being able to perform. There are some candidates that, depending on the community, there are some communities that are running fine, and the candidate that is attracted to that community is coming in and saying, okay, I don't need to make a lot of huge changes. I need to kind of keep the ship going in the right direction, and I'm going to do a value add to that direction. There are some communities where, and this would be reflected in the community profile in an artful way, there are some communities that may be going through some turmoil, and you want to be able to communicate that to a candidate that, this is a community that's going to take some effort, and there's some communication issues, and there's some cohesion issues, and a successful candidate is going to be expected to have the ability to kind of navigate those issues and bring a community back and moving in one direction. So a lot will depend on kind of that community profile. But again, that's not just a reporting of statistics or facts. That's coming out of the discussion that we will have with you folks as to what you think. Where are you in this process right now in terms of the profile of a good candidate?
Sure, and when they try to get a sense of that community and maybe a sense of stability, do they look beyond just the TA position? They might look at how tenured other positions are in the town as well?
They'll look at, I think, a smart candidate, and many of the candidates that I've saw, for instance, or I know myself when I was a candidate, I would do my own deep dive on the community. I'd go in and get the last 3 or 4 years' worth of annual reports. I want to understand what's going on financially. If the audit reports were on the website, I'd pull the audit reports. If I knew people in that particular community that were in any position, I'd give them a call and say, tell me what the real atmosphere is like, and try to get a sense. I visited communities. I took a Saturday and went down with my wife and said, let's just walk around the downtown and just stop and grab a slice of pizza and just talk to the people in there and just say, hello, how are you, how do you like, kind of what you were doing with your new citizen. What do you like about this community? What is it that's kind of, things that you would change, as an example. So I think a smart candidate is going to do a lot of their own research before they apply. And that's also, and it's not uncommon to see folks in the semifinals interview. They'll have papers with them, they'll have an understanding of the finances and things of that nature. But that, to me, is a sign that they're really interested in the community. I'd be a little nervous with a candidate that, just comes, doesn't really know about anything other than that community profile. If that's the only thing they know about your community, then I don't think they've done enough research to really warrant
Thank
the
you.
position.
And then just my last question for you is, could you give us what you think is maybe one of the most important qualities that any good town administrator have, and then what you think is maybe a really underrated and underappreciated but important quality in a TA?
So one of the most important qualities is ability to synthesize information quickly, report that information back, well, make a decision on that information. You have to be thinking about not only what am I doing with this information, what decisions do I need to make, but you also have to be able to communicate that back to the select board in an efficient manner, effective manner. So I was notorious for, I had a group text all set up, just blast a group text, here's what the fire engines are all about, or here's what's going on in the nor'east, or whatever it might be. So I think the ability to kind of think very quickly on your feet, understand what the strategic vision of the community is, and being able to keep communication lines open. And the worst thing that can happen to a select board is when somebody says, do you know what's going on? And you guys say, I'm not really sure. That's, that means you have not been provided enough communication. And probably the most underrated quality is the ability to bite your tongue and not bleed to death. That's the most underrated.
Open your mouth, Peter.
You really have to bite your tongue in this job. You cannot answer everybody that comes through your door in the way you may prefer to answer. You just have to kind of say, okay, let me just see what I can do.
Yeah, Peter had a great Harry Truman anecdote that he sent us the other day that is pretty appropriate. All the letters he never sent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we can see this, but anyone who's watching on Zoom, we might not have this in front of them. I mean, eventually what we'll vote on, it appears, is that, right, task 1, when that's complete, $7,000. Task 6 is complete, basically the back end of the contract, that's $7,000. So all inclusive, it's $14,000, but it doesn't include, obviously, advertising or food and refreshments. So it seems like a pretty good, reasonable fee, just because if we get it wrong, the cost of the town in so many ways will be significantly bigger than that. So just as we project a food and refreshment budget, I mean, do you have higher or lower standards than Sophia Herrera?
I would say that we stand for nothing less than 2.5-pound baked stuffed lobsters and steamed strip rounds of beef that are carved for us. I was at the semifinalists for the last community I was at was actually last week, and I think we were treated to market basket subs. Yeah. So no, that's really more for the screening committee. It's not for us. The theory is this: is like the screening committee we had last week were 2 nights in a row to get the candidates in, to get the 8 candidate interviews done, and they were. So we started at 5:30 and didn't finish till about 9:30 each night. And Mary says, look, if you're going to have people come at a 5:30 meeting, you've got to have something for them to eat. So I think the first night she ordered 3 pizzas, and the second night she brought a bunch of market basket subs. That's the food budget.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than that. It's that level of food. But it's really to make sure the screening committee can, process, to keep people there that long without giving them anything, if you're going to start at 5:30.
Yeah, and it makes sense to have the screening committee just be private citizens, because there's no
Yes.
conflict of interest, no angles, anything like that. But just as a general ground rule, retired town employees okay, or retired officials, just based on their experience, or what would your ground rules be beyond just
I
no
think you
action,
should
right?
shy away from that a little bit. You should be able to find 5 kind of folks that have really had not had an affiliation directly with the town. In my mind, that's a much better thing. And that's not the reason why we say no employees, because it puts everybody in a terrible position. You know,
Right.
That's a terrible conflict for them to be in. But I think you should really seek 5 folks that have not been affiliated with the town, and you should be able to find 5 folks.
And we just look at the role holistically and not through one particular lens, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the idea. And again, we're with that screening committee every step of the way. We assist them in developing questions. We'll show them some questions that other communities have used. They vote those questions, so they vote their own question set. And we'll make sure the question set, if we think it's light, we'll say, really, you have one group of questions that cover folks' administrative ability. You have another group of questions that cover their perspective. We usually have a few questions that kind of cover 1 or 2 questions that will cover something that's going on in town. So this last town I was in, and the reason I can't tell you the last town name is because the finalists have not yet been presented to the select board. It's going to happen this week, so I don't want to say what that is. But in that particular community, development has been a really big issue. So there were a couple of questions that were focused on that to see if they did their homework. Candidates did their homework about the community, or just tell us what they're feeling on the tension between development and, there's a lot of folks that feel that development can overwhelm a small town feel. And so how do they manage that tension, as an example? So we'll have questions on their administrative skills, questions on kind of their view on how they've handled conflict, and then we'll have, some other questions as well that kind of cover broad topic areas.
Yeah, that's a great example too, because it's very topical right now, so
Yeah.
that applies, yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
No, very complete. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to meet you guys. I hope you choose the center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Bob, thank you.
just for the board's information, the other company that we were asking to submit a proposal withdrew. So, right before you right now it's the Collins Center, is the only consultant that is interested and has put forward a proposal. Just full disclosure, I work for that competitor that withdrew Community Paradigm. I've been part of recruitment for that the Collins Center has run, and have hired the Collins Center and other communities to conduct searches. Just to build on what was said, they facilitate. They will not push you in a direction you don't want to go, and they won't shove a candidate down your throat. And if you want to go after private sector folks who may not have experience per se as a town administrator, but have transferable skills, they're going to know who applies in other towns who fit that, other people from private sector or from military that want to come into this profession. And so they will screen those candidates as well. If those are the types that you want to see, they'll make sure that those people apply and are aware of it. They will follow your lead and where you want them to go. And they do a deep dive into the process and do a really good job of portraying the community's strengths, its challenges, and what you're looking for, and they'll go after it. So, and Phil's got as good a reputation as anyone as a town manager. Had a long stint in Hull, which is not an easy place to work, and is very well respected in the field. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There's one I want to take out of order here. Actually, a couple. Item number 4, discussion and vote on aquatic testing to the Division of Marine Fisheries. Mr. Dave Good and I had a discussion in regards to this, and Mr. Good is here with Howard Master DeMayo in regards to how to go about this, and give us more of an update in regards to, or an explanation in regards to what this is all about. And my look at it is talking to Mr. Good, there's two parts to it, benefits Marshfield as a whole, I think, doing this, but also in regards to his venture, which I know is controversial, but hopefully we'll have a discussion with the neighbors on that in a future date. So, Mr. Good, you want to make a presentation, or?
You want to go first, or you? Okay. Thank you all for having me. Dave Good, lifelong resident of Marshfield. I've been working for a few years now with both the state and the town to forward aquaculture in the town of Marshfield. In that time, the Division of Marine Fisheries has made advancements. They've adopted some advanced modeling that has opened up the opportunity for communities that have previously been prohibited from shell fishing and aquaculture, commercial aquaculture. Situate recently has utilized some of that advanced modeling to open up areas, growing areas in the town to aquaculture and as well recreational shell fishing. That was done with support of Officer DeMeo, who serves as both the shellfish constable for both Situate and Marshfield, as far as so he's been integral throughout this time in helping us sort of work through some of the obstacles, one of which is that approval process. So the Division of Marine Fisheries has kind of brought forward these other options now, which are some flow tests that would help open up areas like Marshfield that have been historically prohibited. Due to resource constraints at the state level, Division of Marine Fisheries requires that the request be made by the town, just so that they're properly allocating resources. So I am here to advocate for that request at the town level to hopefully, again, advance aquaculture and open up as well some recreational shell fishing opportunities in the town.
You all set?
All set?
Mike?
Good evening, Mike DeMeo, Harbor Master and Shellfish Constable. So yes, so most of Mr. Good said is correct. I'm not aware of any advanced testing that's being done in Briggs Harbor and Situate and the rivers. They do the fecal coliform tests. They were actually here in April and May, and I actually brought those 2 copies of samples in, which they did not pass in Green Harbor. The Harbor Master Building, Route 139 Tide Gate, and Beach Street Bridge, and I'll share these with all of you. We keep every sample in a book in my office. Every sample that we get from Marine Fisheries is kept. I would gladly put them online so folks can see them. Mr. Good was given a letter September 27th, 2022, which I will share with you. You can read this. And the letter today from Division of Marine Fisheries talking about approved areas versus swimming areas versus areas that are open for shellfish or not open for shellfish. I'm not against any oyster aquaculture. Unfortunately, the state mandates the water samples. They're the ones that tested. They're the ones that have the approved labs, not the town. Yes, the town has a home run rule of implementing rules and regulations and things like that, but if we can't get past the water quality, it's a non-starter, and Marine Fishery is not going to entertain it. And they were here prior to April and May doing some sampling, and they said, Mike, every time we come back, the water quality is bad, it's bad, it's bad. It's like another nail in the coffin. If there is any advanced testing that's out there, I will gladly ask them to open it up. You have to keep in mind, too, we have an outflow pipe, which is within 1,000 to 1, which they deem of Green Harbor Beach up to Rexham Beach is currently closed as well. And I think I sent those in with a packet of the MB areas that were prohibited. Basically, Green Harbor's been prohibited since the 1970s. Then the sewer pipe went in, so you have to meet those standards, which are all above the town constable. If Marine Fisheries is willing to test more, I'm all for it. I'll gladly take them out in the boat, as we do in the rivers all the time. And even right now, the rivers are closed as well because they're conditionally approved. They're not truly approved. Truly approved would be year-round, but currently the classification that they have is prohibited. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm gladly have the scheduled meeting with the chairman, Mr. Good, and get to the meat of it, but I'm just one person, so.
You have anything to add?
Yeah. So that, again, that advanced modeling is a new thing that they have brought forward. It is really utilized for areas that are in and around wastewater treatment plants. As Officer DeMayo pointed out, the historical calculation was that 1,001 dilution, but the advanced modeling allows them to drop to a 320 to 1 dilution with the use of these models that are performed by scientists at the Division of Marine Fisheries along with the University of Massachusetts. So that is that advanced modeling that we would be looking for. And again, this was done in Situate, in the rivers, and it's available on the situate.gov website that they explain it clearly. I'd be happy to share, again, correspondence from Division of Marine Fisheries outlining that.
When you talk about this advanced modeling, is there something like really different than, I guess, the modeling they do now or testing?
So when the rivers closed during COVID because of the Situate sewer plant, they wanted 1,001 dilution. The towns of Marshfield and Situate were the first ones in the state to get an earmark of $100,000. I think his name's Dr. Chin out of UMass Dartmouth, did a modeling study, and there was areas in the river that he recommended to be closed based on the 1,001 dilution. They did wiggle room it a little bit based on the performance of the Situate outflow pipe. It's a very high-performing plant of $1.6 million gallons of capacity. So if it rained or they had a shutdown, that plant can hold 1.6 million gallons of treated sewage. And what Marine Fisheries didn't include in the first run was that Situate has UV testing of the sewer outflow. And so does the Marshfield plant, which is a very high plant that does very well as well. So, yeah, that can be looked at, and we can ask them if they want to come down and do a modeling study, but it comes down to who's going to pay for that, which the one in the river was like $100,000.
So Division of Marine Fisheries, I'm going to be under the impression what you're saying here is it's not something they do, the town's got to come up with the money for it?
Or through an earmark or something, yeah. Like I said, Eric, I'd gladly have them come to the table. I talk to them once a week anyway with other samples as well. If they're willing to do it, just because it would take over 5 years for them to be satisfied with water samples. They want five good years of water quality is what they'll be looking for. Of 15 samples per year is what they're going to want. And that's how we opened the South Rivers up. That were closed for 20 years as well. It was many samples and many runs of the North and South Rivers. Actually, the South River, the North River was open.
So when you mentioned the UV testing, is that something new between Situate and Marshfield? They've always had it.
I can't speak of when they had it or when it went in, but I do know when they were doing the SMAS study, the Marine Fisheries did not really understand how the outflow pipe and how the plant operated. The UV test is another layer of cleanliness, so the water quality is not as bad as what you would think it was. People kind of think the sewer plants is pumping raw sewage, and it's not the case. It's UV treated, and then it goes out to sea.
And this UMass study, was it the only study that's been done in regards to this area? So there's other studies, and they all concur with each other?
For the river, only one study, but I know the towns of City New Bedford and down that area, some areas were lost. The most recent sewer plant was in Ipswich, and they lost, I think, over like 300 acres up there because based on the location of their sewer plant. So,
Both of those communities have looked at this advanced modeling as an option to reclassify some of those areas that were lost and to hopefully open up new areas that we're suggesting. Again, as Officer DeMayo pointed out, it is a lengthy process, and they do take a large number of data points along the way, which really kind of draws criticism to the number of spot tests that they've done along the way. Granted, they have had plenty of tests that suggested that the water quality was good, including a 2020 test done by the Division of Marine Fisheries, which was, the the scientists that did that test made a recommendation that suggested like some of these areas really should be looked at again for reclassification. But it really all falls back, like as we're saying, to that dilution standard. So if that dilution standard could be relaxed based upon the modeling, then you might find yourself in a different position. But again, it really comes down to, like, as we've talked about, I've spoken with some of you in private, but if the water quality doesn't go in our favor, we're certainly not looking to advance this to put anyone in harm's way. But I think our request, like I said, was just to look at the option for this advanced modeling to see if there was an opportunity. And again, I think that this opens up some really great opportunities for both recreational and commercial opportunities for citizens in the town.
It's, 100 grand isn't, how can you look at, it's a sum of money that you gotta really question if you wanna spend it, in my opinion. I mean, what would you say what the other option was in regards to getting this testing, Mike?
Well, we can request through the home run rule of have them, based on their budget and their time, to come in and continue more sampling of their test locations.
So would that be part of this advanced modeling that was being discussed?
I'm not sure the advanced modeling he's talking about. I do know we test for fecal coliform and things like that. Has to be under so many CFUs, colony forming units, things like that. But if the standards aren't there, their stance is, if we keep coming back and it keeps failing, it's like another nail in the coffin. So why do we keep doing this? Like I said, it's not my budget. It's marine fisheries. If they're willing to do it, it's great.
And that, to my knowledge, I thought that everyone that I spoke to said that the money was already earmarked at the Division of Marine Fisheries level, and they just allocate it as requested, which is why they said this has to come from the town.
Okay, I can certainly ask them that.
Yeah, and I had actually reached out to Patrick Kearney to get clarification on that as well, because I believe he had, some involvement there.
So, all right, so based on what you're saying, Dave, is that if the town makes a request, then it's up to the Division of Marine Fisheries, if they want to do it and spend that money to do the testing.
To my knowledge, it's funded from Division of Marine Fisheries, resources.
So not necessarily from the town, but what the state allocates them.
That is my understanding of it, and which is why they were so adamant, like, this has to come from the town, and you'd have to get in line, and we could very well be pretty deep in line at this point. So I understand that this isn't something that would, happen tomorrow, but, there's, like I said, Ipswich, I know, is in it, from recent articles, was looking at this option. I believe New Bedford, some of the other towns that have proximity to wastewater treatment plants. Again, this all really, this discussion centers around the wastewater treatment plants.
So Mike, is that your understanding as well that if we would approve this, I mean, even though you've been on a waiting list, that the Division of Marine Fisheries would be one to fund this study that we're looking at?
I can certainly draft an email to them, won't take that long, and ask them. Basically, there's a thing called the model ordinance, and it falls under the National Shellfish Sanitation Program, which is a model ordinance for the whole entire country. There's one ordinance, which I don't necessarily agree with, because it kind of lumps in recreational shellfishing into a 520-some page document. It references recreational 2 or 3 times, and we looked at this when they closed the rivers on us back during COVID, and we fought it, and we kind of won. We didn't get all the acreage back, but we got a good chunk of the area back based on the study that they did. And we were the first ones, Marshall, Situate, to get that study done. So I'm not saying it's not doable, but I'll gladly ask, as a shellfish constable, I'll gladly ask them for all those resources. But, they're the ones driving the bus, though. It's really on them to want to do it.
Yeah, so in the interest of time, the ask for tonight is to send a letter to the Division of Marine Fisheries, and if they say no, that's the end of it.
I will draft a nice email or letter to them, copy everyone on it, and you'll know what I know.
And then if, in the event they do say yes, the discussion is for another day, the merits of it, and if we want to fund it and things of that nature. But tonight, the request is send a letter. If they say no, that's the end of it.
All I can do is ask.
Fair enough. All right.
I can write a pretty good letter. I write better than I talk, so I would gladly send them a nice letter,
So. You write better than you speak.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
Yeah, anything to add, Trish?
No, I agree. The letter.
So, what you reckon, Mike, is I guess, motion to have a letter written,
Yes.
and then what do we do with, I should say, I have to ask. You write the letter, and let's say they do pay for the funding of the test. Should I motion that, write a letter, then if the Division of Marine and Fisheries does pay for the funding of the test,
Yeah.
that just go forward with it, or, I mean, what are you looking at?
I'll write them an email and ask the things we just discussed tonight, if funding, more testing, things like that, and we'll see what they say. That's all we can do. Right?
You have anything to add?
And again, if it comes back, if the, if the sticking point is funding, if you would accept private funding, we fund it personally.
All right, so I guess we'll just start out with a motion to have Mike DeMayo write on the Division of Marine and Fisheries to ask about testing and funding. Does that sound appropriate?
Yep.
And then I guess we'll take it up another time, depending on what your response is. And then, would it need select board approval if you get the funding for it, or would you just be able to do it without having us get
Definitely
involved?
come back and give you folks an update on it to see where it's at, but I'm gonna copy you on the email to them anyway, so I'll have it
You know
done by
something?
Friday.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way you
absolutely.
guys are in the same step as I'm in, so.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Yeah, so I would just motion to have Master DeMayo contact Division of Marine Fisheries to conduct aquatic testing, and in regards to doing the testing and funding, and
That's it.
yeah, that'd be it, yeah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you. Action item number 3, discussion and vote on request for permission to place, now I know it says bollards, thank you, Mike, but it's supposed to say boulders along the boundaries of the town green to protect event participants from intentional, unintentional vehicle ramming. Police Chief Tavares is here to further explain upon this.
Thank you. So in an effort to better protect the public for events that are being taken place on our town green, we had the Department of Homeland Security come down and do a site visit, do an analysis, and then made some recommendations. And Officer DeMayo was a big part of that, and he can fill you in a little more on that.
So we work very well with CISA, which is a cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency. We used them before for vehicle ramming exercises. The town was actually awarded grant funds for an exercise, a tabletop last year, mostly for the Levitate Festival, but also kind of spilled over for any incidents at Fairgrounds. So as we've been working with CISA, and they're going to start doing our schools as well, one of the things came up is because we changed the parade route. The last couple of parades were ended in town green, which was much safer, shorter route, more people could cover in a smaller area. We're off 139, so we had a few other meetings with other groups to have concerts on the green coming in the summer. And the whole thing was, well, do we park cars along the tree line, which kind of is not going to work because now you're having visibility issues. And the quickest solution was, and CISA recommended the same thing, was by placing boulders between the rocks, between the trees and along Snow Road and Ocean Street was a good option, of rocks that were at least 36 inches tall, spacing about 4 feet apart. And they also recommended the use of potential bollards as well in some areas so you could get access into the green, because the Historical Society doesn't allow vehicles on the town green, but what I'm told is half of the green is owned by the town, which falls under the select board for your approval. So if it was approved, we would want to put some rocks along the town greens to keep vehicles out of there. It's not just for bad actors, it's also, 139 here is a very busy intersection. If somebody has a medical condition, they could easily careen right into the town green, which all these people are at. But the rocks are a great physical barrier. The police station has them, the harbor master building has them as well, and a lot of people don't really understand why they're even there. But it's just an enhancement of a physical barrier to prevent separating cars from people is what they are.
So we already went in front of the Historical Committee, and they granted us permission to do that. So the second part is this second piece of land. We'd need your authorization to do that. We've been in talks with the DPW. Sean's here tonight. I believe they do have the boulders that we're looking for already, and they're ready, willing, and able to assist us if you vote to allow that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this. I think it's a smart move. My only look at is, like I was discussing with the chief, is going forward in the future in regards to, I just look at putting the boulders there as kind of, doesn't have a good eye appeal to it. That's why I was looking in regards to boulders going forward in the future.
Yes, so this is the cheapest, fastest option we have, but it doesn't mean that they can't be removed, and we could seek funding for bollard-type barriers or any other barriers that would be more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I think when we're conversing, I think we can get funding for that in regards to CPC, the way I look at how that is all set up. So, I mean, if we can, you or the Historic Commission, if you think it's a better alternate to go in regards to bollards, put the, if it's CPC accepts it, if it is a legal request, see if we can go that way. That'd be my suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you. Steve, you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Trish, any
What do you have against Rob? No question.
Okay, I move to authorize the DPW to place boulders along the boundaries of the town green to protect the event participants in the event of an intentional or unintentional vehicle strike as recommended by the Marshfield Police Department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So item number 2, discussion and vote on support of coalition against bigger trucks. This was an email sent out to all of us, I think, some time ago. And gentleman, I reached out to the gentleman saying, well, would it be better if we took this up as a board instead of an individual signing this, if the board agreed with it going forward? And the gentleman said, yeah, that probably would be helpful, and send it to the congressional delegation. So is the gentleman from discussion and vote on support for coalition against bigger trucks available on Zoom? You know if he's reached out to it all? So I'm looking for an Aiden up there, and I don't see his name. Are there more names on that list than we're showing right now? Is that it? All right. I'm gonna, without him explaining, I'm just gonna pass this over and move on. So number 5, discussion and vote on the application of a temporary liquor license for the Levitate Festival. So we have a application here, liquor license application for Carlton Chandler, Marshfield Agricultural and Historical Society. Name of business, Marshfield Agricultural Horticultural Society. P.O. Box 5, Marshfield, Mass. 02050. Event date, July 12th through the 13th, 2025. Hours of event, noon to 10 p.m., both days. Location of event, Marshfield Fairgrounds, 140 Main Street. Description of event, Levitate Music Festival. License for all alcoholic beverages has been checked off. Copy of liquor liability insurance, name of the town of Marshfield as additionally insured, checked off. Copy of tip certification for all servers, checked off. This event will be held outdoors. If outdoors, please include well-defined plan of proposed outdoor consumption area that includes but not limited to, and it states that it's on file. And this was signed by Carlton Chandler on May 15th, 2025. There is a certificate of liability insurance Police have no issues with this. And I probably should read off, just for the record. Certificate of completion, this award certifies that Carlton Chandler has successfully completed Massachusetts Alcoholic Awareness Training on premise. We have a tip certification for Mary Margaret Simonelli, and tip certification for Grace Walsh, tip certification for Haley Mason, and that's all I see in regards to this. Steve, do you have any questions on this?
No, thank you.
Comments? Trish, do you have any questions or comments on this?
No, thank you.
Okay, I move to grant a temporary all alcohol license to Carlton Chandler, Marshfield Agricultural and Horticultural Society for the Levitate Music Festival at the Marshfield Fairgrounds on July 12th and 13th, 2025, from 12 p.m. until 10 p.m., contingent on positive recommendations from the police and fire departments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Discussion and vote on an application for temporary entertainment license, Levitate Festival. So this is for the Marshfield Select Board application for a temporary day entertainment license. Name of applicant is Levitate Music Festival. Address of applicant, 1871 Ocean Street. Location of event, Marshfield Fairgrounds. Event description, 2-day music and art event. Dates and time of event, July 12th and 13th. 11:30 a.m. To 11 p.m. Music over at 10:30. License for entertainment on Sunday requires completion of additional fee at $5, paid on Commonwealth, Massachusetts. Type of entertainment applying for, checked off live music and checked off amplification system. Estimated number of persons who will attend, 15,000 a day. Please state whether as part of the entertainment, any person be permitted to appear on the premises or depicted on any motion picture or television screen in a manner or attire so as to expose the public view any portion of the public area, pubic area, I'm sorry, anus and genitals or any stimulation thereof, or any other female will be permitted to appear on the premises of any manner or attire expose the public with the portion of the breast below the top of the areola or any simulation of thereof. That was checked off as no. Person who may be contacted concerning this application, Daniel Hassett, 1871 Ocean Street. Please state whether the applicant is applying for indoor-outdoor entertainment. If outdoor, the applicant must provide proof of ownership for outdoor use. It's checked off for outdoor. If outdoor, please describe the efforts of applicant business has taken to reduce the impact from entertainment or neighboring residents and business, including noise and/or disruptive conduct by persons, shuttle program, coordinated with Boys and Girls Club, and to reduce traffic, mostly daytime show with music over at 10:30 p.m., positive music and messaging, family-friendly events. Will there be food served at the event? Yes. The police have no issues. Fire has no issues. And that is it. I moved, excuse me, Steve, do you have any comments or questions?
If you check yes to that question, you go straight to jail.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Trish, any comments or
I'm
questions?
good, thank you.
I move to grant a temporary entertainment license for live music and amplification for Daniel Hassett for the Levitate Music Festival at the Marshfield Fairgrounds on July 12th and 13th, 2025, from 11:30 a.m. until 11 p.m., contingent on positive recommendations from the police and fire department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda number 7, or item number 7. Discussion and vote on application for temporary liquor license, Historic Winslow House Association. Name of applicant, Kathleen O'Connor. Name of business organization, Historic Winslow House Association. Mailing address, 634 Careswell Street, Marshfield, Mass. 02050. Hours of event, 5 PM to 8 PM. Location of event, Historic Winslow House, 634 Kidsville Street, Marshfield, Mass. 02050. Description of event, Members Appreciation Event, indoor seating, not expecting more than 30 to 40 people. Includes beer, wine, and 2 specialty cocktails. License for all alcoholic beverages, checked off. Copy of liquor liability insurance, name of the town of Marshfield, additionally insured, checked off. Copy of tip certification for all service, checked off. Applicant signed this at 6/9/2025. There is a certificate of liability insurance. There is a tip certificate for Kathleen O'Connor.
Multiple days.
Yeah, it's just. Date July 25th. So they run this 2 days?
3.
I believe they're asking for 3.
Member appreciation.
How come there's separate-
Murder mystery.
how come there's a separate forms on these?
Because there's 3 one-day licenses. There's one in June, one in July, and one in August.
So they all have to be separated?
Well, you're asking for 3 different days, and it's a one-day license, so that's what you fill it out this.
So we gotta vote on these individually then, right?
You can vote them all together. The motion would include the separate dates. You would approve a series of 3 one-day licenses to be held on 6/20, 7/25, and 8/9. That would be the motion.
All right, so all the information, well, no, because then you got a license for all alcoholic beverages not checked off, and this one it is. I think we should just go through it individually, so there's no issues going forward with the public. Anybody, there are some differences, it looks like, to be here. So, on the one I just read, Steve, do you have any questions on it?
No, thank you.
Trish, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, do I have a second on the first one to be submitted here?
Second?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you. Okay. Name of applicant, Kathleen Connor. Name of business organization, Historic Winslow House Association. Mail and address, P.O. Box 531, Marshfield, Mass. 02050. Date of event, July 25th, 2025. Hours of event, 7 to 10. Location of event, 634 Kidsville Street, Marshfield, Mass. 02050. Description of event, murder mystery night till death do us part. Participants will interact with actors. Solving the crime with appetizers and cash bar, about 75 people. Liquor license for wine and malt beverages only. Copy of liquor liability insurance, name and town of Marshall, just insured. Copy of tip certification for all servers. Detailed written event narrative. This event will be held indoors. Signed by Ms. O'Connor, 6/4/2025. Liability Insurance Incorporated. Kathleen O'Connor is the tips certified person. Okay, and then that's for July 25th, 2025. And then you got one August 9th, 2025, same thing, but the description event would be 18th Century Tavern Night. Reenactors will engage with participants while they enjoying 18th century tavern style food, drink, and games. Proceeds go towards the maintenance and preservation of the Winslow House. Certificate of liability insurance for that night. Tip certification, Kathleen O'Connor, and that's all good. So, for those two, do I have a second?
Second?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Discussion and vote on application for annual peddler's license, Pat Piatelli, Dell's Lemonade. Peddler's license application, 6/9/25. Name of applicant, Paul Piatelli. Address 15 Cottage Park, Melrose, Mass. 02176. Name of business, Dell's Lemonade. Type of business, frozen lemonade. Hours of operation, 11 to 6 p.m. Other other information, event-based. This was signed on 6/9/25. I don't see anything else. Comments or questions, Steve?
No, thank you.
Comments or questions, Trish?
No,
Was that a no?
no, I'm good, thank
Okay.
you.
I move to grant an annual peddler's license to Paul Piatelli, Dallas Lemonade, to operate a frozen lemonade food truck at events in the town of Marshall with permission of the event organizer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Discussion and vote on application for annual peddler's license, Wanderson Gonzalez Food Truck. Name of applicant, Wanderson Gonzalez, address 124 Tremont Street, Taunton, Mass. Name of business, Gonzalez Food Truck. Type of business, mobile food. This is signed by Wanderson Gonzalez at 6625. I don't see anything else. Any questions or comments, Steve?
No, thank you.
Trish?
No.
I move to grant an annual peddler's license to Wanderson Gonzalez Food Truck to operate a mobile food truck at events in the town of Marshall with permission of the event organizer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Number 10, discussion and vote on application for annual common victual license, Michael Quattrall Bar. So, name of applicant, Michael Quattrall, address 191 Washington Street, Pembroke, Mass. 02359. Name of business, Aya Bar. He also has on there Akai Smoothies Juice Bar. 1899 Ocean Street, Unit M. Hours of operation 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Signed by Mr. Quattrall, 6425. The Board of Health still needs to conduct a pre-operational inspection of the food establishment before I can sign off. I think Andrew looked like he was good with this. So, I move to approve an annual common victual license to Michael Quattrall Bar for Akai Smoothie and Juice Bar at 1899 Ocean Street, Unit M, contingent upon approval by the Board of Health and Building Department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Discussion and vote on request for permission to accept the donation, Ventress Library. Dated June 7th, 2025. Dear members of the Select Board, on behalf of the Ventress Memorial Library, I'm writing to formally request your acceptance of a generous $500 donation from Ann Donchess in recognition of her friend Claire Steele. We are sincerely grateful for the generous contributions like this, which make it possible for the library to offer resources to programs that might otherwise be out of reach. Thank you for your consideration, Cindy Marcoux. Question or comment, Steve?
No, thank you.
Trish, questions or comments? I move to approve the request from Cindy Marcoux for permission to accept a donation of $500 from Ann Donchess in recognition of her friend Claire Steele. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Discussion and vote on request for permission to accept donation, Veteran Services. Dated 6/9/2025, permission to accept donation of $250. The town of Marshfield Veteran Services requested permission to accept donations in the amount of $250 from John Cullen from Memorial Day Cookout Collection. The donations will be used to provide assistance for health and welfare, moral and/or financial need of our veterans and their dependents. Sincerely, Karen Paulette and Lisa J. Potts. Questions or comments, Steve?
Thank you for the donation.
Yes, absolutely. Trish?
No, thank you.
I move to approve the request from Veteran Services for permission to accept a donation of $250 from John Cullen from this Memorial Day Cookout Collection. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, I probably should have, I gotta have a discussion with you on this, because I know we have on here discussion and vote on any appointments to boards and committees, and I know it's gonna require us to yay and nay on these, and I just found out information today in regards to the process, but my other concern is that I was looking to table this is because I had one applicant inform me that a form that he filled out is not the one that, he wasn't handed the one that was handed out to the select board in regards to select board appointment policy. And then I found out that in regards to this whole process that we're only gonna put a thumbs up or thumbs down in regards to appointing people back to their positions, but not making appointments to cover them, even though it would take 2 weeks to do it. So, what do you guys want to do in regards to this process, in regards to the appointments? Because I do know there's people in the wings that are looking to take the positions, but I don't know what those spots are at the moment without the paperwork, and then, and I don't want to put people on if there's somebody else that has an interest that might be qualified for it, or I should say that may want it, and then, you know, put somebody on not knowing that there is somebody, there's another option out there. What's your thoughts on it, Steve?
I would recommend 2 courses of action. First, I would go through the list of people who are going to expire this June and start with the people who confirmed that they're interested in being reappointed. Then I would have our professional staff poll the board and figure out who has 2 votes and put those folks on the public agenda, right? And then anyone that we don't want to reappoint, we just let their term expire, right? We don't embarrass them or anything like that. And at the next meeting, then we pick from that pool of applicants to fill in that newly created open position or to fill an existing opening. And I think that would probably be the easiest way to do it. And then that way we're not spending hours going line item by line item for each person who's up and if we're going to replace them or not. And then my second recommendation would be that we vote on at least one person tonight on the agenda, which is Bob Galvin, because a lot of people spoke for Bob tonight. This is the second time that Bob has ostensibly been on the agenda. So I do think folks would like a determination, and I would too, just because Bob expires on June 30th. So if we wait until our next meeting and we vote no, then we're simultaneously without both a labor council and a town council. And then we would have to vote after that if we want to do an RFP sheet and send it out for town council. So then we're kind of pretty far down the road. So I would recommend that we table everything except Bob to get our ducks lined up in a row, find out who has requested to be reappointed, start with that, and then we look in the pool and fill in those openings. But I think we should vote on Bob tonight if that is how the majority of the board feels.
I'll look at it this way. I think the request for an RFP for Bob is proper. I don't think anybody's voting to get rid of Bob or
No,
keep him.
what I'm referring to is if we table Bob, whatever happens, if we vote no on Bob tonight, the RFP would ostensibly then be on the 30th at the same time that Bob expires. If we table everything, including Bob, to the 30th, then all we can do on the 30th is vote yay or nay on Bob, and then the next meeting do the RFP. So I'm just saying it'd be kicking the can down the road. So I think in terms of time, it would be best to vote on Bob tonight. It's still not the ideal situation to be in if the vote is no, but it's better to make that decision now than delay things further and tabling everything up to and including Bob.
I think it'd be improper of, at least myself, I'm speaking here, not to send out an RFP and see what we get back from people in regards to requests to potentially be town council, in my opinion.
If I could be heard, one of the things that concerns me is if that's what the board wants to do, you don't want to, during the RFP process, be without counsel in that interim period. So if you're not prepared to appoint town council or to renew his appointment for a year, at least renew him for a period so that when you're looking at the RFP process, you still have counsel. So that, quite frankly, I think that the interim town council is going to do quite favorably if there's a comparison with others. But that being said, you're going to need him in the interim period, if you do issue an RFP, and I would say 6 months would be prudent. And if you go through the RFP process and choose to go in another direction, I'm sure that, Mr. Galvin will act appropriately, but I think that you need to secure his services at least in the interim period if you're not going to renew him tonight for the full year, for the interim period while you're considering other firms.
I mean, I'm ready to have a discussion and vote on Bob. I think that's probably the best way to move forward, and if, I think that's what we should do. And if the vote is no, then there's the answer on the RFP sheet. If you want to do an RFP sheet no matter what, then just vote no, but let's have the discussion and vote on Bob tonight and get the train moving.
Well, I'd like to just say, as far as the others, the reappointments, I think it's very difficult coming in as a new select board person and voting on reappointments of people that I don't even know. And so I've mentioned to Jenna and Kate that next year, maybe anyone that's coming up due, if they wish to be reappointed, that they complete that one sheet as well, and they say what they've done, and it gives all of us some background. So that aside, as far as Attorney Galvin, I think he's been incredible during this interim, and it's definitely been very turbulent, and he and I've had many honest conversations, and I appreciate his honesty with me. I feel like one thing he did say to me is that he's never had a review, which someone that's been here since 2012 and never having a review, it just seems like we all need to know kind of how we're doing, and I'm sure he'd like to know how he's doing. But one thing that I heard while I was campaigning is that a lot of residents are tired of the rubber stamp, and just like every year, it's even the reappointments, these people going back, and, it's the good old boy club and the rubber stamp. And I think I do agree for the RFP, only for the fact that it has Bob come to us and with other people and say why he deserves to be our attorney. And that, so it's almost like a review. So that's where I stand. But I do agree we need to, if that's the case, we're gonna need Attorney Galvin, and I know that he can do the job. All I'm asking for is that we do ask for the 6 months. We do put out the RFP, and we ask him to also just interview with a couple of the candidates and make sure that he is the best attorney for Marshfield.
Sure. Did you want to add anything else, or is it okay if I? Good, okay, I just want to talk over it. Okay. All right, yes. So I would say that we did receive a request from Bob for a reappointment where he made his case, and we got that time stamped on May 21st. So that was good to receive, and I agree with you that going forward, right, if someone's new, it's really hard to make an evaluation based on 1 month. So it would be good to have everyone coming up to send us a kind of recap of what they've done over the course of the past year, right? But here we are on the 16th, and on the 21st, Bob did give us a recap of all the work he's done for the town over the past year and in his history here. He's been here since 2012, and I understand what you guys are saying with going out with the RFP sheet, but I mean, I can tell you that over the course of working with Bob for 5 years, my confidence has only grown in the value in the service that he's providing to the town. And I totally get wanting to base things based on your own observations, your own experience, and that 1 month isn't a huge sample size. But what we can also do too, and what I've done is I'll call colleagues in other towns, who have worked with Bob and ask them for their assessment and their feedback. And we had a lot of department heads and employees who were here tonight who expressed their confidence in Bob. So when I talk to people in other towns who don't have a dog in the fight for what we do here, and I see all the department heads who showed up tonight and our employees, and I'll call our committee and board chairs as well and ask for their opinion. And the assessment for Bob is aces all across the board. So when I look at that holistically, I think Bob has more than earned the right to be our town council again. And one thing that I respect a lot about Bob is his integrity and his honesty. I like that he says no when I call him sometimes and ask him a question about something. And we had a great example tonight that Sean Patterson brought up with that indirect cost policy in that town meeting article from 2016, where Bob's the only person left who was there when that happened, you know, who was in this room. So, like, when you look at the job holistically, too, there's that institutional and historical memory that we lose. And you'll notice that we'll have people start to come before the board who are banking on the fact that we won't have that historical knowledge and try to slip one past the goalie. But I can just tell you, too, it's not just my experience with Bob, but all the people who showed up here tonight from both the public and the private sector talk about Bob, who've worked with him directly, our own employees and department heads and board chairs as well. I think that speaks volumes, and I understand what you guys are saying, but we don't really need to just... I think there are a lot of ways for us to vet and do our homework before the meeting about Bob to make an assessment, and I get the appearance sometimes that things seem to have a rubber stamp, but sometimes, right, if you do your homework beforehand and prepare for the meeting, it does go a lot more smoothly, but it does have that negative appearance of being orchestrated, but it's not. But I'm telling you, like, with the summary that Bob sent us and just seeing the work that he's done and some of the hard calls that he's made over the past year, and I guess the best example that I'll give, and also the most recent about Bob's integrity, right, is Bob stood to make a lot of money in billable hours from the town fighting the MBTA Communities Act in court, right? But what did he tell us? That in his professional and legal opinion, based on his years of experience, that he didn't think that we would prevail, and that in the interim, we would lose access to hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant funding, which is exactly what happened. And not just us, but every town to this point that's been fighting this from a constitutionality perspective or unfunded mandate perspective, we just keep stacking up the losses. And we spent a lot of money doing that. And so we got that advice from Bob for free. So not only did he say something that was extremely unpopular that nobody wanted to hear, it was also against his own financial self-interest, and he still did it. So there's really nothing more that I would want to look for from our town council. I mean, it wasn't just that he said something that wasn't popular that we didn't want to hear. It's that he did that, and he was right. And I don't want to create a chilling effect where people who work for the town are going to think, like, oh, God, like, if I'm not a yes man, I'm going to be on the chopping block, or even worse, even if I'm right, it won't matter, you know? So for that reason, I mean, it's an annual reappointment. No one's going to die if we appoint Bob for one more year, but at least you'll have a bigger sample size under your belt that you'll feel comfortable with. But just the validation of everyone we've heard from tonight and over the last few weeks, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer to reappoint Bob for another year. And I'll just turn to Peter, because Peter has a hell of a lot more experience than I do, and he's worked with Bob, and I just wanted to get your professional assessment of Bob, and then also as well, I mean, if we do find another town council, are we going to find someone who's going to pick up the phone at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning and meet for 2 hours, or how are we going to look?
Clearly, I've had, before I came here, I had a relationship of working 7 years with Bob Galvin and had an outstanding experience. He, I think he thought that when I came into Norwell, I was going to replace him because I had relationships with other firms in other communities. But I respected the institutional memory that he had in Norwell, and then gave him a chance to prove to me his worth, and he did every single meeting. He's not shy about telling me things that I didn't want to hear. People can look and say, well, wasn't successful in this case and wasn't successful in that case. We lost at the MBTA thing at the SJC. We lost at Superior Court. There were 9 other law firms representing other communities, all the municipal law firms, every single municipal law firm in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts argued that Superior Court case, and they all lost. Nobody won. Nobody made, and there was no inadequacy in the representation that Attorney Galvin gave, and that you know, he gave his best advice to town meeting, but he also gave his best effort in arguing both at the SJC and the Superior Court. And when he represents this town at the Supreme Judicial Court, he goes in there with a reputation for winning more than he loses. He's not somebody that they're not going to listen to seriously at the SJC. He's somebody who's won, and he's won repeatedly. And I know from talking to the Attorney General's office, they had a hard time working or beating him on the argument that he raised in Superior Court. They were worried. You know, they were worried they were going to lose on what he was bringing up, not so much on the others. So he's very well respected. He's continuously been an individual of integrity. The institutional memory that he has for this town and what its legal matters are will not be matched by anyone in the business. And I have worked in the last year with 4 different municipal law firms. Nobody's going to be able to replicate what he does. And when you see the prices that others offer, I am more than confident that you will ask Attorney Galvin to reappoint him and ask him to renew for his services. The last thing I would say is an annual appointment for a town council. I would go with 3 years going forward. Annual, you want continuity in this position, and you can write a contract for cause for removal with notice. I just think, you know, putting your lawyer on a spot every year is tough. So you asked me my opinion, I'm giving it. I will respect the board's actions, regardless of, you know, whether they agree with me or not. I will carry out whatever the board instructs me to do. I will do that. I will just renew that if it is the choice of the majority of the board not to reappoint this evening for a full year, that they reappoint for a period of time during which the RFP process can work its way through. Thank you.
Either that, Steve, or you're done.
One last question for Peter. If we turn back the clock and you're still a full-time TA and you're watching recent board meetings, you're looking at other towns and what they've been doing with their personnel, if you saw someone with Bob's resume who was let go, would that give you pause with respect to applying to that community?
I don't feel comfortable answering that question. You know, I think that anybody who's looking, you know, to work with the town is going to look at what boards are doing. And they'll make their own assessments accordingly. But I'm not going to answer that question.
Sure. Thank you.
Good.
All right. I'm gonna say that, I'm gonna motion, obviously it's a yes or no, Steve put out 6 months, I believe. But I don't think it, yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I would put out, you know, a year. I mean, if there's no restriction to only being a year, I would do longer than a year. But if it's 6 months or nothing, I would do 6 months. But I would put forward a year. If it
All right,
was.
I'm just gonna put out, and then it's a yea and nay from either one of you. So I move to reappoint Town Council Bob Galvin for 3 months. After June 30th, 2025.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. What if you made a motion to put out an RFP?
Well, the RFP was already out there from last week.
Yeah, I'm drawing up an RFP.
We haven't voted to release the RFP, but he's currently working on drafting an RFP.
Okay, so don't we have to vote on the release?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So basically, yeah, yes. The
Okay.
point that you're driving towards, yes, you're correct.
Okay, so we have to so you have to make a motion to release the RFP,
Get candidates or
get candidates,
submit submittals from people.
And then, okay. All right, I'm just
Good?
trying to be clear.
All right, so I'm gonna say, we'll give Bob a 3-month extension. Do I have a second? Okay. Give Bob a 6-month extension. Do I have a second? So do we want to renew Bob for another year, for the 1 year, another 1-year contract? Do I have a second?
Second.
And I'll say no.
Aye.
Nay, I should say nay.
Aye.
All right, 2 ayes. All right, there you go. That settles that. All right, so in regards to the rest of the appointments, what is the suggestion that we want to do here?
Table it to the 30th.
To the 30th? I can go
Unless-
with that because there's, something, just,
I liked
Going from
Steve's
the-
idea.
what's that?
I liked his idea so that we are able to put people in positions and then have Kate and Jenna ask our opinions, and if 2 people vote for them, so they're not coming here and being turned away.
Rather than that, what I would ask each board member to do, so that you won't run afoul of the open meeting law looking like you've been polling beforehand.
Oh.
If you look at the list of positions, and if there's any that you want to put a hold on, not appoint at this time, because you may have another candidate that you want to
Okay.
consider, please inform me.
Okay,
And then we can put the agenda together accordingly and take care of that.
Yeah, but, I mean, here's my thing, this is the whole process in regards to, all right, one, I got a 4-page document going here in regards to, I think, the way they're supposed to be all set up in regards to the appointments, and I just did, it's like, we're going to appoint people but not know who put in an application to be appointed, not ahead of time.
Well,
I mean-
we can give you that list now.
I
and
have.
You can look at it, yeah.
But the whole thing is that we haven't, I don't even think we put out I mean, according to what I'm seeing in regards to the policy, the appointments policy, that if we were going to, we should be putting the policy or the application out for people that are interested in the boards and committees well before we're making a decision on who we're gonna keep and who we're not gonna keep. So that's my concern, is that there are people that are probably interested right now that we don't know about, so to say, in the things that we're gonna make a decision on in regards to these positions and who we're gonna keep on these boards, and if the majority of the board decides to keep them. So how do we go about like putting out a policy or an ad, letting people know, hey, on June 30th, these appointments are gonna be up. If you are interested in getting on this board, being, how can you say, chosen to be appointed to this board, how, you gotta get your name in and all that, and so the select board will be informed of it. But there's nothing here. It's either we vote for who's currently on there, and then if we choose not to vote on somebody, then there's a vacancy, then you put it out. The whole process is screwy to me in a major way.
I can add something. I mean, we have that list because I asked Kate and Jenna to prepare one for me like 3 weeks ago, and I have one. So it's a manual process, not an automated list, but we can reach out to Kate and Jenna at any time and say, hey, can you get me a list of people up for reappointment?
it's in here.
Well, we know who's for reappointment.
And who's
It's just that-
requested it,
So-
who's
We don't know-
officially requested it, and then our pool of applicants.
You've got a policy, a select board policy dating back to 2009 that asks, for this process to begin in January. And I guess that's not being complied with. But,
Yeah, 'cause I'm just seeing this policy. This is the
yeah,
first time.
so
I've
what
seen
you would do is, you'd know what the vacancies are and who's up for appointment. I know that they've been working since I've been here and probably before on trying to get people to say whether they're interested in staying or going. and to identify the vacancies and we've put out, what the vacancies are. And also, I drive by a sign every day that says, if you're interested in serving on a committee, contact the board. And so maybe we can be more, active and vibrant in recruiting applications, but if people have said that they want to serve, that's the first thing. If you know the people and have concerns about their continued service, identify them and we can hold them off. If you know of somebody that wants to serve and somebody else wants to serve as well, bring them in and interview them and make the choice. So if you,
The thing is, Peter, is the process is screwy
get
in
it.
regards to this, and that needs to change in regards to
Right.
it. And like I said, my other concern is that there's an applicant that never sent in their paperwork because of a Corey form that was mistakenly sent to him as opposed to another one that's being used for another matter. So let's put it this way, I got a good idea what's gonna happen with me in the future. But going forward in regards to this whole disaster and all that and everything, I hope whoever may be sitting here in the future has a good idea, because much like everything else that I think a lot of us have walked into, there are things that are really screwy in regards to how the operation of this town goes. And this clearly shows in regards to the appointments, in regards to the process of it. It needs to be refined and redone. So, my look at it is that I will table this whole appointment thing, and we could take it up either next week if people choose to, or the 30th. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and the analogy that I would use, it's not perfect, but you know how you go through town meeting with the CPC articles or the free cash articles line by line, and someone can stop and say question, right? And you circle back to that one later and vote separately and individually, but all the ones that go through without a question or without a hold, you vote on collectively. That's, I think, would be one of the smoother options and smoother ways to do it, but we definitely want to get our ducks lined up in a row where, first of all, you know who's up for reappointment and have they formally requested a reappointment, and then we can decide if we want to do a hold or not through Peter, and then look into who's in the pool of applications that we could sub into that opening if they're still interested.
My honesty, Steve, I would disagree with that as well, because I think the pool of people, even including those who are currently appointed those positions, should all resubmit. And, well, those people that resubmit, but those who are new that are interested, they all should be at the same time. And that way we can go through it. And that way, I think the process will be better, especially those new, instead of going off a list and saying, all right, we want to appoint this person, yes, but then find out a week later that somebody put in for it, but we didn't know about it. They were reappointed.
I'm thinking of them as like one in the same pool, like new applicants or existing, just anyone who's applied. I'm talking about them like as one combined bucket. Yeah.
Right. That's what I was talking to Kate and Jenna about, like have everyone do that one page and say, if you're looking for reappointment, this has to be in the same time as all the applicants, so they all come in together, and we're looking at them through that.
Yeah, I mean, briefly going through the policy that I received today, I believe Peter mentioned that there was a date, what is it? It's supposed to be asked like in
says
January or something like that?
January 14th.
Yeah, so January 14th, this was supposed to be, I would look at it, initiated. And, and this should be taken up well before June 30th, so everybody knows where it stands, in my opinion, and all that and everything. So, I mean, I think this policy needs to be gone through again and revamped, because I have concerns with the whole thing, the way it is. I don't think it's good for the town. I don't think it's good for those that sit on the boards. I don't think it's good for anybody that's looking to sit on the board the way it's set up. And, I mean, I even right now, upon this information coming before me and all that, I don't even know what we can do, how to go forward, because the appointments are up the 30th, but we want to be fair to all applicants that are putting their names in, whether they're new or current. So I think we need to, really work that out and maybe each individually talk to Peter or Bob in regards to what we can do here, because I think it'd be unfair to everybody.
I think Bob gave me some advice when I asked about this, and he said that we could put it off, we could ask to table it until August, or like at least down the road, so that we could get all the applicants and go through them, but all the boards would stay as is right now. That's.
Okay, so I was gonna ask you in regards to down the road. So down the road meaning down the road today. So that means the appointments could stay in place until,
Until we have everybody in and we can figure out which way we want to go with this.
all right, I'm good with that, you know, it's, we do that. The whole thing is, I imagine we have to vote on it too, right?
Or we can just pass over it for tonight and then.
No, we'll pass over, but I would say come June 30th, we'll probably have to make a formal
so-
vote on it, I would imagine.
So effective on June 30th, the people that may not have been reappointed will be deemed holdover appointees. So they'll continue to serve until you make an appointment to replace them. And that's the concept that I spoke to Trish Simpson about last week.
And we've done that before, too.
Yes, so they'll continue on. They won't be in a new full term, but they'll be considered holdovers. And they hold that position until you make either a reappointment to a new term for them, or you put somebody else in that spot.
All right. Well, just for the next person, is I got some kind of game plan going for it, so it's, this is ridiculous, what I'm seeing here. So, all right, so I think we still got a couple of other agenda items we gotta go through.
Well, I think you need to.
You need to table.
You need to table that.
Yeah, I did, I think, like I said, we wanted to table, it's all tabled. For the official record, I will table this vote on
So
the appointments.
it's a move and a second,
Second.
and then
Aye.
call for the vote, yep.
Aye.
Aye.
What did I just do with the agenda? So, get that all done. So discussion and vote on applications for commercial parking permits on town property during the Marshfield Fair. So I imagine I'm going to have to read all these names. Would I be correct about that? Name, address, and number of cars?
You actually don't. I think if you identify the ones that I identified in the agenda, you'll find. You don't have to name all the addresses.
Okay, I think either Kay or Jenna has it motion that way, so. So, okay, there's a whole page of people here just about regards to it. And as I said, it doesn't have to be read into the record as far as I've been told. So I move to renew the aforementioned addresses for the annual commercial parking permits to assist with parking for the 2020 events at the Fairgrounds. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Discussion and vote on applications for commercial parking permits on town property during the Marshfield Fair. The following organizations have applied for and are expected to apply for permits for commercial parking on their property during the Marshfield Fair. These licenses will be valid through August 24, 2025. Please approve all contingent on receipt of form and fee, $1 per car, and approval from treasurer collector. Marshfield Friends of Music, South River School, 125 cars. Marshfield High School Athletic Boosters, Grace Rider, 260 cars. I move to grant permission for the Marshfield Friends of Music to park cars at the South River School, 125 spaces, and the MHS Athletic Boosters to park cars at the Grace Rider Field, 260 spaces during the Marshfield Fair on August 15th, 2025. through August 24th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Discussion and vote for application for film production, The Elevators. Let's see, it's a music video from The Elevators, Sunbird Music Video. Company name, ASTA-Weatherby Group. Street, 43 Matakeesit Street, unit number 6, Pembroke, Mass. 02359. Assured company information the same. Location manager, Braden Beck. Location assistant, Landry Long. Location description, type of location, open. Let's see, the dates for it is 6/28. Equipment on the location, 5 or 10-ton trucks, BB light, night Sunday, need the type, and, oh, actually, I think it goes down, oh, I see what it is. 5 or 10-ton trucks, cast crew, 6 cube trucks, motorhomes, process trailers, skate bed trucks, and then aerial workforce platforms. And then we have light night sun, condos, generator, pitches, vehicles, scissor lifts, vans, camera cars, cranes, honey wagons, portable restrooms, semi-trucks. And personnel location to be determined. Could be anywhere from 100 to 1,000, depending on how we spread the word. The bands, it's kind of obstructed the wording there. Itinerary, the more the better, for the sake of capturing a moment in history and treating it with a fundraiser on the local foundation called the Zach Woods Foundation, but we are cognizant of the potential need for keeping things on a smaller side. At a minimum, it would be 6 band, 10 crew, to be determined friends and family. Nothing else is checked off here in regards to filming activity. Oh, it says filming activities, gunfire. It doesn't specify anything checked off in regards to gunfire, if there is gonna be. Posted parking closures, posted no parking signs. Please indicate which side of the street, north, south, north side, east side, north side. Yeah, I think that's it. It's just an email here, but it doesn't seem like anything needs to be read off, so I'm gonna motion to grant permission to the Elevators to film a music video on June 28th, 2025 at Fieldston Beach, contingent on hiring at least 1 or 2 police details for crowd control purposes, depending on tides and weather, to cover the 4 hours of shooting that the Elevators expect to use on that beach. And you know something I just thought of while I was reading this? Steve, did you have any questions or comments on it?
No, thank you.
Trish?
No thanks.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
That's okay.
Thank you. Motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, absolutely.
this is my fault, but I think we're on the same page with respect to the volunteer boards and committees that we appoint. But, and this is my fault, I think it would be good to kind of, in terms of how we put together the agenda and discuss it right now in real time, that we probably should parse out and separate the employees who are annual appointments as well. So I know we have until June 30th, but I would be super stressed if I was an employee tuning in tonight. And so I should have pointed this out earlier. But I think tonight we have a lot of employees up for annual reappointments who are doing a good job. They're not really controversial or hot topic positions. So I think for peace of mind, it would be good to square away some of the employment-related annual reappointments tonight, just because, again, I would be stressed if I was tuning in tonight and had until June 30th. And again, that's my fault for not parsing that out and clarifying that earlier.
I see a point, and I think you would be I don't see an issue with it, to be honest with you.
Do you guys
Well,
have-
actually, as employees, well, we've got, maybe, I'm looking at one. So are you looking at like wire inspector, veterans agent?
if we
Is
have
that the
this,
list you're looking at?
yeah, I'll just rattle it off if that's helpful. I'm counting 10. If you guys have the same number that I do, I have the animal control officer, Alexandra Forbes, the building commissioner, Andrew Stewart, deputy veterans agent, Lisa Potts, emergency management director, Arthur Shaw, local inspector, David Carlo, plumbing and gas inspector, Aldo Bertoni, town council, we already did that, town council, Bob Galvin, town historian, Cynthia Kressel, veterans agent, Karen Paulette, and then wire inspector, David Camaletti. So we basically have almost the entire building department, and then a couple other folks. I would say they're not really controversial. They do a good job. They're not really a hot button.
No, I just want to make sure of that because I do see board positions on it, so I want to just clarify that, because I don't believe those board positions were employees, so, okay. So I necessarily don't have an issue, even though we voted on something earlier, I don't have a problem revisiting this, and,
So you'd remove it from the table if you want to, and get a second, and then you can reopen it for discussion.
all right, so what was our initial,
Just remove.
the table part?
Yeah, you remove the employees from the table. The aforementioned,
Oh, you want to, do this, so, all right, so, on the table agenda part, we're gonna remove the animal control officer, building commissioner, deputy veterans agent, emergency management director, local inspector, plumbing and gas inspector, town council we already took up, town historian, veterans agent, and wiring inspector. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
okay,
now
so,
you would move, and you can list them all and then vote them, or you can list them individually and vote them, whatever you want to do.
prefer me to do all of them at one time?
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, okay, so, we are, I'm gonna motion that the board vote to, appoint the following, people, in regards to their, how can I look at it? The position in town. Animal control officer, Alexandra Forbes. Building commissioner, Andrew Stewart. Deputy veterans agent, Lisa Potts. Emergency management director, Arthur Shaw. Local inspector, David Carlo. Plumbing and gas inspector, Aldo Bertoni. Town historian, Cynthia Kressel. Veterans agent, Karen Paulette. Wire inspector, David Camaletti. Did I get everybody?
I think you did, and love the delivery.
You're welcome. So do I have a second on that list?
Second.
Aye.
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 Are we all good with everything else?
I think we
Before we
landed the
move,
plane.
before we get to the next, before we get to the next agenda item. Motion. I move to adjourn the select board meeting of June 16, 2025 at 8:38. Do I have a second?
I don't have it. I had another motion, so I won't second that, but I absolutely will.
Oh,
second
I remember that earlier.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's,
So I'll just make a motion to put on the agenda for our next meeting, currently scheduled for June 30th, an action item that we have a discussion vote on a proclamation for Pride Month. Is there a second?
well, hold on, before you do that. Bob, what is, now, this is where I'm informed, uninformed on. Where are we with state law or charter, town regulations in regards to these type of situations?
In terms of the open meeting law, it's not a problem to ask for in this meeting, ask for a future agenda item to be added to a future agenda. If two of your board members choose to, or are in favor of putting an agenda item on, then a majority vote controls. In the absence of any voting, the chair is the one that determines the agenda.
So say that again, the chair?
Ordinarily, you are creating the agenda,
Yes.
but if a majority votes you and you choose not to put something on the agenda or you don't want to put something on the agenda, the majority controls. So if Mr. Darcy and Ms. Simpson decide that they want to put a matter on the agenda and you disagree, a 2-to-1 vote would result in that item being placed on the agenda.
All right, so this is a new one on me, because I mean, all right, I get, it's, so where is that, where is that stated? What is that, law, or what are we looking at, guidance, or?
It's the way it's always been done. This happens in any parliamentary procedure with a multiple-member board. The multiple member, we've had some history here in Marshfield about this. We had a circumstance once where our Community Preservation Committee chair didn't want to take a vote on a particular matter in front of the Community Preservation Committee. And, I don't know, it's a 7 or 9 member board. All other members other than the chair decided they wanted the matter on the agenda. The matter went on the agenda. The chair didn't even come to that meeting, and they passed the matter in abstention without the chair present. I mean, it's just the way it is. You're a multi-member board. You have to decide things by a majority of your vote, or there's no action taken.
Yeah, I mean, this is new to me in regards to this whole situation here. So, I mean, I always read that the chair control the agenda.
Well, you do. You typically create the agenda for the board meetings. But if a majority of your board says, we want something else to be added, and you object, and it's a majority, then the majority controls.
All right, yeah, all right, so go ahead, Steve, it's your motion.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we place on the agenda for our next meeting, currently scheduled for June 30th, an action item to have a discussion and vote on a Pride Month proclamation. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye,
Wait, are you opposed?
I'm opposed.
Opposed? Okay, so
Nay.
2-1, it carries. Okay. And then I'll also make a motion that we place as the first action item on our agenda for our next meeting, currently scheduled June 30th, a discussion and vote for a reorganization of the board. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, unanimous 3-0. Okay. And you can do my favorite motion, which is always to end the meeting. Is there anything else?
I move to adjourn the select board meeting of June 16, 2025 at 8:42. Do I have a second?
Enthusiastically second.
Aye.
Aye.